Rock, DTCC, Fidelity. The entire thing was just institutions. It's next level. This industry is going to the next level. And guys, I don't know what else to say. I'm bullish.
You said it. You finally said it.
I'm so bullish.
Andy's bullish. I'm bullish. We're bullish. We're on 4th floor today. We're gonna be on floor 1, and then we're headed straight to the moon, boys.
Need some music.
How we doing?
To the moon. To the moon.
It is Thursday, December 4th. We are live again. It is such a different flow going live every day virtually versus being in the same room. We were in Buenos Aires. We were sitting there. We were going live. But like this just feels different. It doesn't necessarily feel good or bad. It just feels different. Get the lights going.
Yeah, I don't have that figured out on my end yet, but
I think I got a tan now.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah. It's another beautiful day in Florida. I'm back with my tan. And
I think I'm back. Am I back?
yeah, you're here. We got you. Yeah, man. I like the virtual vibe. I feel like we can kind of, I'm way over here, you're way over there. We can kind of come together in this weird way. Whereas otherwise, it's almost like in the same room. It's like kind of like we're speaking on the same thing. But the virtual vibe, it feels a little bit more like we're kicking it, which is cool.
Yeah.
There's just obviously quite a bit of infrastructure behind the scenes that's necessary in order for us to properly connect.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're definitely kicking it. I'm chilling. It's Thursday. It's noon. It's almost noon. There's so much going on. So I'm watching this show, Last Frontier. It's pretty great.
Is this the one
It's on Apple TV only.
This one you were telling me about? It's you were watching it where I was about to leave.
No,
for
that was a
flight.
different one. That was all her fault. That one was crazy too.
Yeah.
But I finished that one. So there's this new trend in shows that is like, they make these like 10 episode or 8 episode season shows, and it's the full show in one.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like,
These,
I feel like
mini-series.
it's the same concept with like why clips are popular now and why it's just like this, like no, there's no longer like a Breaking Bad 6 season 40 episode show. It's like we're just gonna put it all into 10 episodes and put it into one season and make it so the terminally online attention span deprived folks can just get through it all, which I actually appreciate.
It's almost like an extra long movie.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of times those episodes are like an hour long. And if you get 8 episodes, it's almost like a 3-part movie trilogy series, but all in one go. I think it's possible because like it's not like you have like this whole production. It's like Netflix or Apple TV is the one financing that operation.
Yeah.
They don't need to go and like monetize the IP for like 4 or 5 seasons, see how much they can get out of it. You know, they can just rip it and then move on to the next show. They don't
Dude, but
need to
also
keep
the shows
slamming
these
the
days,
same show.
they're so rapid fire as well. Like I think they're inspired by like shorts and different like social platforms where like there's a scene change every couple of seconds and there's always something like happening in this show. It's like you can't even look at your phone because you have to like rewind 30 seconds because something happened.
I think that goes for like any sort of like active listening, active watching. I don't know about you, but when I watch a show now, I feel like I'm looking at things where I didn't like if I'm listening to a podcast, I'm like thinking like, oh, they set that up well.
Yeah.
Or oh, they explain like I'm almost thinking about it in terms of like what is creating the best experience. Same thing for a movie too. I'm like, oh, they made that plot turn. They created something that you didn't see coming.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I feel like I would have just like sat back, almost like more passively. But now, I feel much more engaged in. I feel like it's a result of working in media.
Yeah.
Like recognizing more of what goes into a particular scene and then thinking about how that went or how it could have gone rather than like being absorbed in the story. It's almost like a peek behind the curtain and understanding what goes into the production of that is almost more like almost more indicative of like where the experience is.
Dude, so I put out a couple of tweets that have been getting some attention. One about Hyperliquid Bull. It's pretty important to understand what's coming in the perps market. I'd like to just pull this up. It'd be great. But basically, I said
Send me the link. I'll pull it up.
It's pretty important to understand what's coming in the perps market. As a Hyperliquid Bull, you've got lighter mainnet and token launch, variational mainnet and token launch. Ostium $20 million raise just happened yesterday. GRVT extended, Pacifica Advantis, Vest, Rhea, Hibachi, others with token launch coming. The winner is currently Hyperliquid basically by all metrics, but the perps landscape will be entirely different by Q2 2026. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. People are kind of pushing back on this. Basically, it just seems that people think that there's one winner. It's just going to be Hyperliquid, and that's it. And that's kind of where they're at. So I don't really know what the market thinks about this. I mean, we had somebody said there was many of the next Bitcoins too. Tyler Whittle from Taproot said, I think the real interesting reward for perp supremacy will come from when they're inevitably legalized in the US. Hyperliquid versus Coinbase versus Robinhood, on-chain versus off-chain for the real perps champion. I thought that was interesting.
I think you got to look at what's kind of playing out in the prediction market landscape, and that is going to almost be a proxy for what's going to happen in the perps landscape.
Yes, same thing.
Prediction markets are becoming legalized, and what you see is like Robinhood is pushing a lot of volume to Kalshi. And I think you would imagine that because a lot of these primitives got started on-chain first, some of them are going to verticalize, but then others are going to use their distribution in the US and push that volume on-chain. Like I could see Coinbase pushing volume to Ostium, similar to how Robinhood pushes volume to Kalshi.
Well, they have their own perps platform now. Coinbase does. They have their own perps stuff, so they would never do that. But like, the issue that this guy's bringing up is more about like, yeah, why would you use these kind of non-KYC sketchy platforms when you can use other ones, and that are like KYC, guaranteed not going to steal your money and can bring you pretty much the same result. Dude, did you watch any of the clips from that L1 debate yesterday? I feel like there's some really good nuggets in there. I
got a few
that we should react to.
This one did well. This one about why ETH is overvalued.
Yeah, this one got all the ETH maxis pissed.
Yeah,
super
Leo, let's
pissed.
bring this up.
Super pissed, which was absolutely hilarious, actually, because you got Santi's like this like PE guy, right? And he's like, the guy talking about you know, trying to make the cash flows versus Metcalfe's law for L1 valuation, where it's like, Metcalfe's law of network effects applies for so long, and then you got to actually start to generate real cash flows and revenues. But Santi was saying, like, basically, yeah, these L1s have moats, but they're not monetizable moats. So do they really even have a moat? And so, yeah, I mean, that was the question. It was like, how do you say you have a moat if it's not monetizable?
Dude, I think you've got people who are putting, and this has always been the thing, has been like, are we going to use traditional business modeling techniques to model valuations for things that are new inventions? I mean, I can see the argument both ways, right? And that was essentially this debate. You got Santi that's arguing like, look, these things are typical businesses. Why are we going to, invent something new when these things are just not any different? And then you've got Hasib who's arguing like, look, these are networks. They should be valued as such. They're stores of value. And you should be changing the valuation model, right? So let's get this. Yeah, let's put it up. That looks good. Leo, I'll play this video here.
Ethereum is a $380 billion. It will crank out $1 billion. That's 380 times price to sales, right? Amazon never traded more than 28 at the peak of the dot-com bubble. It historically is traded at 2 to 4 times sales.
Everything is price to sales.
Companies trade
well, that's Santi for you.
Yeah,
3 times price.
That's Santi for you.
Looking at sales because that's the cleanest metric. It's like, are you capturing value or are you not? And I would argue that Ethereum is not capturing the value that people would have wanted to. Most of that's going to L2s.
What's going on, guys?
Ethereum is
most of that's going to L2s. I mean, the other thing to say here is that incentives for L1s are fundamentally just like, they're not incentivized to maximize shareholder value or profit or sales. Like what you see from Fusaka is pushing fees down.
Yep.
That's lower sales. So there's a very misaligned economy here where these L1s are trying to minimize the amount of rent that they're charging to these rollups or their users, which is going to cause their revenue to decrease. But in theory, it's going to cause their activity to go up.
Yep.
To get more share of the transaction volume flowing through the network.
Yeah, but the idea is that, okay, it's trading at 380 times. It's whatever he's saying, price to sales.
Yeah. And
so it's like, there's no other asset in the world that is why would you buy ETH at 380 times price to sales when you could buy, and Santi literally used Western Union as the example here for why would you use this as the why would you buy ETH if it's so aggressively overvalued by this metric? So I don't know, man. There's too much
understood.
Like the L1 versus it's like, okay, we have these store of value assets, and all the people are going to say like, oh, why would you apply this, trying to apply this price to sales ratio on a store value asset? I mean, that's kind of like the actual, pushback I think that they're basically getting.
Yeah. So now let's look at Hasib's counter argument, which is essentially that these L1s are networks. They're like cities.
Yeah.
And if you have a market share of a city, it's not like a city is making sales. I mean, you could say that it's the aggregate of all of the sales in that city.
Yeah.
Let's see what Hasib is saying.
A layer 1 is better understood like a city or like a state. It's better understood as a geography. And a geography, like take Singapore, for example. I think Singapore is actually a great analogy for Ethereum. Singapore is a city with a very low tax rate, right? That's a lot of people. Reason why people move to Singapore is because the tax rate is very, very low, and they have great rule of law. It's a very reliable place. It's not very big, so
fees are low, taxes are low.
It's very, very stable, and it's actually a great place to run a business because of the fact that the tax rate's so low. Now, Singapore, you could think of it as a place that's like, well, they make so little tax revenue. Think about all the value that's on Singapore, right? Like, how should you think about the value of Singapore? The answer is you should, in some very deep sense, think about the value of Singapore as not the tax receipts of Singapore, the country. You should think about it as in terms of all of the wealth that exists within Singapore.
On is valued at 26.
Wait, this is a good one too, dude. This
we can. Yeah. Well, let me get your reaction to like what. Okay, so we've heard both sides of the argument now, right? It's like valuing L1s as networks, and the economic value of that should be equated to how much economic output or like GDP is going through that particular network or city or state versus how much in fees or sales or tax revenue that particular network generates. Do you have which way do you lean?
I mean, I'm not even sure if I find it like it's so hard to argue against the history of Bitcoin and ETH and seeing how they've got to these prices. The reality is, like, if you want to see a 250K Bitcoin, a $10,000 ETH, you have to agree with the Hasib's thinking, or you have to see a whole different train of thought for where all these revenue is coming from. So, yeah, I'm struggling to see how I'm struggling to see how you can be a long-term bull in the space and not be, just, in Hasib's kind of realm of thought.
I think what's interesting here is that Bitcoin is a different L1 than all the other L1s. Bitcoin is obviously in the store of value category. I think you could see how you don't really need fees in order, at least right now. And then the security model of Bitcoin as it goes is like, a whole different story. If miners will continue to mine it just, based on the fees and not the block reward, you could kind of see how like Bitcoin right now is more like a city, but it actually is going to transition into the revenue-based model if they're going to need to generate fees. And then there's going to need to be like tax revenue on Bitcoin to survive. Whereas I think this is where Bitcoin and ETH are different. ETH started as a tech company. It needed revenue. It needed to grow. It needed to charge these fees in order to subsidize its growth. And then it starts to transition out of a revenue-based model and starts to transition into a store of value type of asset in order to think about like what growth could look like further. Nothing else can be considered money. Like I would, it's, if you can't buy like a portion of Singapore, like what does that really give you? It's not like you're buying land in Singapore that you're going to go and monetize. It's not like you're buying like a parliament seat that you can go and like, that was a whole governance token thing, right? Like these things are either money in which case you could potentially buy like a fraction of economic output of Singapore and like buy like a Singapore equity token.
Well, the question is like, do the apps on Ethereum actually drive value to, ETH? And it's like,
if ETH continues to drive down how much fees it charges, I would argue no.
Well, yeah, then it's like, okay, if Singapore has low tax, ETH has very little tax, then like, but like, yeah, so it's like, it's kind of tough to wrap your head around the whole like blockchain as a city or as a place because, yeah, it's just these things are not the same. And so, guys, we're gonna take a super quick break. We've got our first guest ready. I think we'll need to revisit this part of the convo, but I'm gonna be right back, and we'll get our first guest up and loaded.
Yeet is built for big moments. The most fun you'll ever have with your crypto. Go to yeet.com to yeet into your next game.
Not your keys, not your coins. From the team that pioneered cold storage, Trezor has just released its new wallet. Guys, if you are still using hot wallets in 2025, 2026, you are missing the entire point. Secure your coins. Get a Trezor at Trezor.io.
Go anywhere on-chain instantly with Relay.link. Relay is closing in on $10 billion transferred. Go to Relay.link to bridge your assets now.
Money shouldn't wait for Mondays. Following its real upgrade, Polygon is now one of the fastest chains for stablecoin transfers and payments. Visit Polygon Technology to learn more.
Kalshi is the world's largest prediction market. You can trade on anything in all 50 states. Go to Kalshi.com to trade today.
Talk to AI like your lawyer or your doctor or your therapist. Yours, private, and here today. Visit near.ai to have a fully private chat experience.
Havachi is fast and private perps trading, secured by ZK with Celestia underneath. Go to hibachi.xyz to start trading today.
Looking for yield that stands out? Infinify gives you just that. Deposit stablecoins and earn far more than the current savings rate. Infinify is a battle-tested, reliable DeFi platform that is ready to go. Head to infinify.xyz.
Halliday is unified crypto payments. Give your users more wherever they are. Go to halliday.xyz to never write a smart contract again.
Open, stable, borderless. Frax is building the next generation of stablecoin infrastructure for the digital finance era. Visit frax.com to learn more today.
Yeet is built for big moments. The most fun you'll ever have with your crypto. Go to yeet.com to yeet into your next game.
Not your keys, not your coins. From the team that pioneered cold storage, Trezor has just released its new wallet. Guys, if you are still using hot wallets in 2025, 2026, you are missing the entire point. Secure your coins. Get a Trezor at Trezor.io.
Go anywhere on-chain instantly with Relay.link. Relay is closing in on $10 billion transferred. Go to Relay.link to bridge your assets now.
Money shouldn't wait for Mondays. Following its real upgrade, Polygon is now one of the fastest chains for stablecoin transfers and payments. Visit Polygon Technology to learn more.
Kalshi is the world's largest prediction market. You can trade on anything in all 50 states. Go to Kalshi.com to trade today.
Talk to AI like your lawyer or your doctor or your therapist. Yours, private, and here today. Visit near.ai to have a fully private chat experience.
Havachi is fast and private perps trading, secured by ZK with Celestia underneath. Go to hibachi.xyz to start trading today.
Looking for yield that stands out? Infinify gives you just that. Deposit stablecoins and earn far more than the current savings rate. Infinify is a battle-tested, reliable DeFi platform that is ready to go. Head to infinify.xyz.
Halliday is unified crypto payments. Give your users more wherever they are. Go to halliday.xyz to never write a smart contract again.
Open, stable, borderless. Frax is building the next generation of stablecoin infrastructure for the digital finance era. Visit frax.com to learn more today.
Yeet is built for big moments. The most fun you'll ever have with your crypto. Go to yeet.com to yeet into your next game.
Not your keys, not your coins. From the team that pioneered cold storage, Trezor has just released its new wallet. Guys, if you are still using hot wallets in 2025, 2026, you are missing the entire point. Secure your coins. Get a Trezor at trezor.io.
Go anywhere on chain instantly with Relay.link. Relay is closing in on $10 billion transferred. Go to Relay.link to bridge your assets now.
Alrighty, we got Sydney coming up next. They just released Drift V3 today, a new UX, other updates. So we're gonna get Cindy up here shortly, talk all things Drift. Good timing because I just, like I said, I put out that post showing the Perpetual Pulse, which is the best website for perps information, I think. And we have Sydney up now. Sydney, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. Congrats. V3.
Thank you. Yeah, big day for us.
Welcome to the show. You guys have been building for a while. It's your first time on the show. Maybe you could tell people how you got into the space and how you ultimately found Drift.
For sure. I got into crypto about 8 years ago now, which kind of feels crazy to even say out loud. Initially started off in Korea doing some arbitrage between the US and Korea, as many traders in the space have started. Ran a prop hedge fund after that for about 4 years. So one of the early traders of options and one of the first traders on perps when they first launched in 16, 17. And then basically saw a huge gap in the space with how most of the perps at the time, I mean, all of the perps at the time were fully off-chain. No one was building perps, but people were building on-chain options. But it was clear that the biggest opportunity in the space was actually in on-chain perps. So met a bunch of Solana guys, Toli and Raj, back in 21, and was really excited by the energy in the Solana ecosystem. So decided to shut the fund down and run Drift full time.
Nice. And you guys have been, so I'm actually looking at Perpetual Pulse right now. You guys have been pretty consistently in the top, I would say 4 to 6 in terms of OI and volume for quite a while. Just announced V3 has been described as built for outperformance. I don't know if you're in Dubai or Abu Dhabi now. I know Breakpoint's coming out or is happening next week. I'm sure you're excited for that. I guess like when it comes to the difference between V2 and V3, it's a big launch for you guys. What is the single kind of biggest upgrade that traders will feel as a result? Is like tangibly speaking, what does V3 bring for me as a trader?
So V3 is the biggest performance upgrade since we've launched in 2021. And the core differences are in the trading performance, speed of fills, liquidity. So between V3 and V2, we're looking at a 10x improvement in the time to fill an order. We're looking at about 15x faster stop loss, take profit triggers, looking at about 10x reduction in slippage as well. So 10x more liquidity than in V2. So it's a radically different experience. And to be honest, I think having been building in the space for so long, a lot of our UI was was based on what was popular and what was the patterns of UX back in 22, 23, but the space has changed a lot since then. So we've really done a big facelift on the brand colors, brand identity, UX, and general responsiveness, snappiness, and pulled it forward to the present and the future. So I think you'll notice that it's just a much more delightful user experience than before. And there's no other way to put it, right? I think that to me, besides all the performance improvements, is the biggest upgrade.
This launch video is pretty sick. I don't know. Are you a runner by chance?
I mean, I wouldn't call myself a runner. I do run. I used to be a runner, but it's been harder to be very consistent with that. But yes, it's a very like Nike.
It's like accelerations, like bang.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sydney, I know this is certainly not in the list of questions, but I'm super, super curious about how like post TGE perp stexes think about the pre TGE competition perp stexes, because like I put out this tweet yesterday basically saying like, hey, like it's pretty important to understand what's coming in terms of the perp market. And in my realm, I was like, kind of framing it from like the hyperliquid perspective, but you've got lighter, mainnet token launch, variational, Austin, and I listed all these others. And so like, there's this meta of like, all right, let's all farm the perp stexes because, there's big airdrops coming, but like, that volume, is it really sticky? Is it long-term? Like, is that OI going to be kept? Obviously like Aster's been running these crazy programs, but like, you guys have about $400 million of OI right now, which is like, I think the number one for post TGE outside of hyperliquid perp stexes. How do you think about like the whole pre TGE longevity, sustainability, like the whole game that is being played there versus like what you guys are doing?
That's a great question. Ultimately, a user is going to, and like a potential airdrop generally has a lot of potential energy, and people are going to farm a product with a lot of potential energy because your airdrop could either be zero or millions of dollars, right? So there's very, very high variance in the outcome. Whereas if you're looking at a post TGE project, the variance and the rewards for what you get is already pretty much set in stone in a sense of your post TG project isn't gonna 100x tomorrow in terms of outcomes. So the rewards are definitely a lot more stable. But we found actually really, really great user retention across the board despite these new protocols popping up. And ultimately, it's the same hot ball of money that we see rotating in crypto. Like, there's not that many new perp traders in the space that these new exchanges are necessarily bringing on. So a lot of it is like hot balls of money rotating between the pre-TGE projects, whereas post-TGE projects have kind of reached a level of PMF. I would say that we've hit pretty good PMF within the Solana community. Where we're the only cross-collateral perp dex. We enable people to use their SOL as collateral, and we've really hit a good group of users that are very, very sticky. And ultimately, the way to grow it is not really by participating in the hot ball of money that ultimately goes away outside of perp dexes anyways, but to continue carving out a path within user groups that are outside of that, and bringing more people on. So yeah, I would say that most of the pre-TGE farming is a similar group of people, but we're interested in expanding the frontier baseline by actually bringing on more people from centralized exchanges as well.
Yeah,
Makes sense. Cindy, I think we're getting some audio issues. We're gonna go to standby real quick, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeet is built for big moments, the most fun you'll ever have with your crypto. Go to yeet.com to yeet into your next game.
Not your keys, not your coins. From the team that pioneered cold storage, Trezor has just released its new wallet. Guys, if you are still using hot wallets in 2025, 2026, you are missing the entire point. Secure your coins. Get a Trezor at trezor.io.
Go anywhere on-chain instantly with Relay.link. Relay is closing in on $10 billion transferred. Go to Relay.link to bridge your assets now.
Money shouldn't wait for Mondays. Following its real upgrade, Polygon is now one of the fastest chains for stablecoin transfers and payments. Visit Polygon Technology to learn more.
Kalshi is the world's largest prediction market. You can trade on anything in all 50 states. Go to kalshi.com to trade today.
Talk to AI like your lawyer or your doctor or your therapist. Yours, private, and here today. Visit near.ai to have a fully private chat experience.
Havachi is fast and private perps trading, secured by ZK with Celestia underneath. Go to havachi.xyz to start trading today.
Looking for yield that stands out? Infinify gives you just that. Deposit stablecoins and earn far more than the current savings rate. Infinify is a battle-tested, reliable DeFi platform that is ready to go. Head to infinify.xyz.
Halliday is unified crypto payments. Give your users more wherever they are. Go to halliday.xyz to never write a smart contract again.
Open, stable, borderless. Frax is building the next generation of stablecoin infrastructure for the digital finance era. Visit frax.com to learn more today.
Yeet is built for big moments. The most fun you'll ever have with your crypto. Go to yeet.com to yeet into your next game.
Not your keys, not your coins. From the team that pioneered cold storage, Trezor has just released its new wallet. Guys, if you are still using hot wallets in 2025, 2026, you are missing the entire point. Secure your coins. Alrighty, we just got liquidated, but luckily we, like James Wynn, had a bit more collateral to add to our balance.
Steady, lads.
So I'm on my last clip right here. I've just gone to the pawn shop and sold my last gold bar that was in my safe. So now I'm back. Sydney's back. All right, let's get back to V3. Let's talk about some.
It wasn't me this time. That
Yes.
liquidated you.
No.
It was Arthur Hayes. It's always Arthur.
Yeah, BitMEX has been liquidating us since 2018.
It's always Arthur.
Cindy, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, and it makes complete sense when you're thinking about the relation between pre-TGE, post-TGE. I'm curious, when you're thinking about product upgrades, you're thinking about V2 to V3 and so on. How much of this is reaching feature parity with centralized exchanges, even traditional financial futures and derivatives platforms? At a certain point, is it time to push the boundaries? Is there things that you guys still need to do to get to feature parity and then go beyond that? Or generally, where are you looking for inspiration to add some of these new features?
Good question. I mean, I think there's still, I would say from a feature parity perspective, we've hit a majority of what we can do on chain with parity and centralized exchange side. Like, of course, orders can always be faster marginally, but if you try the exchange right now, the other thing that you'll see is fully gasless trading, where when you click enable trading, you actually just have to hit a single button, and after that, you never have to click approve again, which was the bane of many on-chain traders' existence, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that's actually amazing that you don't have to click approve every single time you want to trade. So we've built in all of these things that make the experience really, really good. Even with Privy, you can log in with your email now, and it's substantially better than a KYC centralized experience from that perspective. Of course, because we're entirely built on chain, there are some trade-offs with how fast orders can get filled. There's still there's still slowness there compared to a fully centralized play. But virtually, I think if you're just looking at it from a trader perspective, you won't really see that many differences unless you're really like microscopically trying to compare times, right, or latency. So for most traders in most big use cases, I would say that we've hit close to parity on performance regard. And now I think the next big step is to think about what are some unique things that you can do on chain that you can't do in centralized exchanges, and apply new growth playbooks. Because the reality is that it's quite like the existing growth playbooks are pretty boring, like running trading competitions, um, leaderboards. They're all done already, done and dusted, right? Like people have shown what it takes to build out an operation like a DEX or in the perps situation. And now it's like, how can you bring in new things to the mix that people have never done before? Like we've built kind of the groundwork and the framework for a highly performing exchange, but that alone isn't going to create a winner, right? Like the next step is actually figuring out what are some really interesting product UX ideas. Like can you take a leaf out of basically traditional finance funded accounts to help people prove out their ability to win before giving them funded accounts to trade with. All this stuff is possible in DeFi. We launched things like vaults last year, where anyone now can be a vault manager, fully like trackable and verifiable on chain. And those are the types of products that will ultimately pull people in after they see, okay, like the general performance is already really good, but I'm going to stay for these tertiary products ultimately that we've spent so much time building out. And so what we're looking for now is not really parity, it's DEX specific innovation. And I think what we've done with putting swaps, putting earn, like no other centralized exchange, for instance, has been able to build something like dip, you're earning USDC yield even when you're not trading within your like full account. So I think those are the areas that you ultimately win. It's like, yes, we can play the airdrop game. Yes, you can play the leaderboard game, but why do people stay? It's because you have a differentiated product. So yeah.
Yeah. As part of, this feature set on chain for V3, you've kind of adapted your liquidity pool as well as the insurance fund in V3. What does that actually look like for capital efficiency, for LP incentives? People are kind of, I think the community is going to want to understand what that changes for traders, as well as how that makes a better experience for them, and then what that changes for LPs with regards to this new liquidity pool model as well as insurance fund model.
Yeah, so there's no changes to the insurance fund model. One thing to highlight as well is that we have one of the largest insurance funds in all of DeFi. It's sitting at about 25 mil now. And the insurance fund exists to protect users, especially in the case of 1010 liquidations, where if there are any bankruptcies in the system, the insurance fund steps in as the senior debt, before it gets to users getting ADL'd. So that's always been a good buffer, and that's going to stay the same for V2 as for V3. As for DLP, what it exists to do is essentially to supplement the efforts of the AMM right now. And the AMM exists to provide backstop liquidity for the markets that we have on. And that's why a lot of our recent market listings and launches have seen much improved liquidity. So at some point, the DLP could be opened to have external depositors in, but right now, we're keeping it as a part of the protocol where the protocol itself is going to boost its liquidity on markets. And so there's virtually no changes to how a user interfaces with the protocol, except that they'll see much better liquidity in the books.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Okay, so no major changes, but just, further kind of beefing up the system and making it more reliable, more robust for all the users, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's possibly the smoothest migration because you don't have to, yeah, your previous accounts all move over. There's no need to migrate, re-bridge anywhere else. And then market makers don't have to update their SDKs too. So everything is like as if is as seamless as it can be.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious again, kind of like thinking about this convergence between what we typically call TradFi and DeFi, or really lines are becoming blurred and they're just becoming finance, right? Especially as in America they're looking at perps and they're looking at regulation that would legalize perps trading in the U.S., probably oversight by the CFTC, and so it's almost like these regulated exchanges. I'm curious from your perspective if you think that would increase their moat, or if it would decrease their moat as they widen access and allow more perps exchanges into the US. Do you guys have a strategy for what that would look like as you guys enter what could be a more regulated space?
Yeah, I think we're on the road to exploring some CFTC exclusions and working with a couple of parties to ensure that we would be able to operate ultimately in regulated spaces. I think
Yeah.
that's the natural pathway for DeFi derivatives. It's going to take a while, but there is a path forward, and if especially in this regulatory climate, we want to be the ones spearheading these efforts. So yeah, I think there is a path to doing that. I think for us, the philosophy has always been continue to innovate on product first, and then pave the way for regulatory optimization. And that's exactly what we're doing now.
Sydney, last thing for you. I know we're tight on time here. Perps versus prediction markets. I don't know why, but this has been created this year. It's been a battle. It's been which one is going to be better? Are we going to perpification of the world? Or are we going to prediction market the world? Is it going to be like this general trend of like, all right, we're going to enter a more speculative environment where people want to essentially weigh their opinion on a variety of different things. From your perspective, from Drift's perspective, are you thinking about integrating prediction markets? Do you see these two as like opposing forces, similar forces? How do you kind of view the perps versus prediction markets kind of landscape?
I think they're similar forces driven by the same speculative behavior. It's just a different way of expressing it and in different scopes. And I don't think the answer is like perps versus prediction markets, right? It's perps and prediction markets and any other instrument that can help people express their views on the world and be able to be compensated financially for it and to allow people to take risks. We saw 0-day options really take off in 2021.
Yeah.
And prediction markets today are just another form of binary options in a different UI. And I think it's a really great innovation because it helps people contextualize the kind of bets that they're taking. And I think with perps, that was also a very big 0 to 1 moment for crypto. And I actually think that with the base of perps, you can do things like prediction markets. You can build new versions that people can express their views on outside of just like a simple perp model. So, I'm actually quite excited by what our team has to offer in terms of the continued wrapping of perps into different forms. So things like games, things like showcasing different types of UI for it. We have a mobile app coming out, for instance, that will enable you to trade perps a lot more easily, frame it in the form of questions like prediction markets. But ultimately, the baseline is just how do you want to showcase the user experience of trading to a user, and perps, prediction markets are all just wrappers on the same behavior of speculation.
Yeah.
One-
And perps are going for the 0-date options market as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. On the same thread, you say like true or false, perps are prediction markets that don't expire.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Well, or they're expiring every time there's a funding rate.
Change.
But
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably more accurate. Awesome. Cindy, thanks so much for joining. Congrats on V3. Perps is taking the world by storm, and you guys are at the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, congrats on the OI growth. Like I said, it's always top 5 here on Perpetual Pulse, so it's impressive.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me. And yeah, make sure you try out V3. Let me know how you like it.
Don't get liquidated, Rob. Thanks, Cindy.
Enjoy Breakpoint,
Thanks, guys.
Cindy. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. See you.
See Arthur Hayes in your dreams with the goggles. The boogeyman. The boogeyman is coming a little bit.
Boogeyman.
Awesome, Cindy. We'll see you next time. And next up, we've got Ilya, the co-founder of Near. They just launched their Near AI product. So Ilya is going to join us in just a moment. Guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Yep. Bang.
Yeet is built for big moments. The most fun you'll ever have with your crypto. Go to yeet.com to yeet into your next game.
Not your keys, not your coins. From the team that pioneered cold storage, Trezor has just released its new wallet. Guys, if you are still using hot wallets in 2025, 2026, you are missing the entire point. Secure your coins. Get a Trezor at trezor.io.
Go anywhere on chain instantly with Relay.link. Relay is closing in on $10 billion transferred. Go to Relay.link to bridge your assets now.
Money shouldn't wait for Mondays. Following its real upgrade, Polygon is now one of the fastest chains for stablecoin transfers and payments. Visit Polygon Technology to learn more.
Kalshi is the world's largest prediction market. You can trade on anything in all 50 states. Go to kalshi.com to trade today.
Talk to AI like your lawyer or your doctor or your therapist. Yours, private, and here today. Visit near.ai to have a fully private chat experience.
Havachi is fast and private perps trading, secured by ZK with Celestia underneath. Go to hibachi.xyz to start trading today.
Looking for yield that stands out? Infinify gives you just that. Deposit stablecoins and earn far more than the current savings rate. Infinify is a battle-tested, reliable DeFi platform that is ready to go. Head to infinify.xyz.
Halliday is unified crypto payments. Give your users more wherever they are. Go to halliday.xyz to never write a smart contract again.
Open, stable, borderless. Frax is building the next generation of stablecoin infrastructure for the digital finance era. Visit frax.com to learn more today.
Yeet is built for big moments. The most fun you'll ever have with your crypto. Go to yeet.com to yeet into your next game.
Not your keys, not your coins. From the team that pioneered cold storage, Trezor has just released its new wallet. Welcome back to AI Supercycle, our premier AI show, airing every single week, presented by Near. We cover the ins and outs of decentralized AI, privacy, and the future of this massive technology.
Near is the blockchain for AI and the execution of AI native apps. You can check out Near's latest AI product at near.ai. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Welcome back. Alrighty. Ilya, welcome to the show. Good to have you back, man.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see
Absolutely.
you. Guys, welcome to
Looking
AI
sharp.
Supercycle episode 12. We've got the Black Dragon calling in from the layer here, the private layer himself, which is a undisclosed location because we're all about privacy here in this world. Near AI has just dropped today. Ilya, the marketing is amazing. Can we talk somewhere private? I hate to tell you, Ilya, this is not a private call. We are public. We are live right now. Good to have you, man.
Yeah, no, we've been cooking, so it's great to be here to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just some context, right, Rob? Last 6 weeks, I mean, we saw Zcash went on this insane run. Privacy really came back into the zeitgeist of kind of the general kind of crypto Twitter population, and just more broadly, kind of like this return to fundamentals ethos that we've been pushing on the show. Near Intents facilitated a ton of the Zcash bridging in terms of actually getting assets from Bitcoin, ETH, Solana into Zcash to be able to actually buy Zcash. The volumes went through the roof, revenues as well. And then you guys had been working on this Near AI chat product, this private chat product. So it feels like all of the perfect time for Near. Man, how has it been the last 2 months at Near, Ilya? It feels like a lot of things are coming together.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like a lot of stuff we've been building for the past like year and a half is actually like all coming together and really like starts to gel. So really excited. There's actually more things coming in next, few days to a week. I'm not gonna drop too much alpha, but a lot of exciting stuff there. But yeah, I mean, it's just like teams are gelling. We have, intents are firing in all cylinders. I think momentum is like insane. It's like there's a PMF, people are willing to pay for it, and it's getting integrated everywhere, and kind of really like the vision of like, hey, this is going to unify liquidity, plug everything together is really there. And so now it's like, hey, what else can we build into this, right? And how else it can leverage now AI and real world assets and other things as well. And then on privacy, as you said, I mean, I feel like in the crypto circles, privacy always been like an important aspect, but generally, it kind of like not been talked about. And so I've been talking about like the importance for AI, for your data. Like you cannot own your data if it's not private. Like if you're giving it to third parties, to Googles, to Apples, to OpenAIs, like you're not owning it, right? You actually sign off the terms of service. In many cases, Google, I think, just released that they're training, or it was reported that they're training on your Gmails. You should probably go and opt out from that. You need to opt out explicitly. So that's what's happening, right? Like all your data that you give in is effectively been used in some way by this company. So privacy is paramount, and kind of money is one. One aspect of that, data AI is, pretty big fundamental another.
Yeah, we were just talking about this Gmail Google training model, and it came up in the context. Andy and I were both looking at the same email. We were thinking about a response, and it was like, wait, there's a one-click response right here. And it was not just the canned responses that they've had for a long time. It's like, wait, this response is actually pretty good. That was the surface level. The deeper level is, wait, the reason why it's better than it always has been is because they've been training on the millions of emails that we've had in our database for going back that long.
Yeah.
Pair that with what we're seeing from ChatGPT. They're training not only on our data, but then they're going to start serving ads based on those prompts, based on those responses, and embed those directly into the responses that we see from ChatGPT. All of this was helpful to ultimately provide the value proposition of a private AI. And you guys have capitalized on that. Near AI
talk to it like your doctor, talk to it like your lawyer. And the litmus test for this has always been, look, ChatGPT has said, we're going to share, if the authorities come to us, we're going to share the data with the authorities.
Yep.
The idea here is, even if you guys wanted to, and I'll frame this as a question, but let's say an authority came to you and they said, hey, this person, we know they've been using Near AI. We're going to serve a subpoena, or we want access to this person's records so that we can understand how their criminal mind was working. Would that be an instance where you could give up that data? Would you give up that data?
So for Near AI, for this product, we cannot, we don't have any access. All the AI inferences, right, they all end encrypted with the specific GPU hardware where that runs. And effectively, even even with access to hardware, you cannot decrypt it, and it's all kind of in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think the context here, the general trend is that the people have been far more willing to provide different AI services with more and more information. Like, as you get used to using the product, you become more and more kind of acclimated to actually giving this product a ton of information. And so today you guys launched AI Cloud and private chat. And so these are kind of like two separate things that work together within this lens of understanding this kind of growing human behavioral trend of using LLMs in these more intimate ways. What is AI Cloud, private chat? How do they come together in the lens of this growing user adoption of AI?
Yeah, so AI Cloud is really the developer tool, right? It's an infrastructure that any developer can use to leverage private inference, and verifiable inference. And we're going to be adding more things to that product offering. And so, for example, Brave has integrated Near AI Cloud into the Brave browser. It's right now in nightly. And effectively, when you talk, you can choose Near AI provided in your Leo AI in Brave. We have OpenMind, which is a robotics company that's building a robot operating system. As you can imagine, having a physical robot at your home that is effectively listening at all time, looking at all time what's happening, you really care about privacy at that point, right? Probably don't want to, you and your boxers continuously streamed to some third parties. So that's a really great use case. Anything effectively touching sensitive information, but also just like a day-to-day, like live mic, should probably be private. And so, that's for AI Cloud. And so AI Chat is really just private chat is product built on top of this, right? So this is just our demonstration of how you can leverage the AI Cloud to build products and have all of the privacy features. And so, I mean, obviously it's open source, and so people can build on top of that, or we expect, there's a lot of kind of ways to expand this now to add more functionality with now private MCP servers, with memory, etc. So we want to explore that as well. Imagine now you are, for example, right now, OpenAI is like, hey, allow us to access your email, right? Your AI will be better, but now OpenAI has literally, access to all your emails, and even non-maliciously, right? There's accidentally issues can happen with this, but it also includes, if there's any kind of leak or anything, all of the data will potentially leave. Versus in our case, you can actually run the MCP server itself in the same kind of verifiable private infrastructure. And so now your AI can have access to it and only it, and nobody else can, get into that as well.
Yeah.
So that's the idea, we can actually keep expanding and adding more privacy verifiable services on top of this, and really make your AI also smarter and better, have more context, be able to actually do actions on your behalf, be able to manage private keys as well, right? Because, this is something where you actually care about privacy and verifiability as well.
Yeah. So you're wearing your Jensen Huang leather jacket today, and part of this Near AI Cloud is using Intel TDX hardware, as well as NVIDIA confidential computing hardware, where data is processed in this kind of sealed, isolated environment. So that's kind of the AI cloud. I'm curious, like, what, from your perspective, using this high level commercial grade hardware, what is the biggest unlock from combining actual privacy at the hardware level with the on-chain guarantees that you get using the private chat product? What is the unlock there that is novel about this launch?
Yeah, so first, like, effectively, this confidential computing hardware mode is only like been around, let's say, a year. Some of the recent like updates that were needed only came out at NVIDIA GTC this year. So all of this is very kind of new, and the reason why we haven't seen this as much. But this layer of hardware allows you to effectively run computing, like AI model inference, agents, etc., in a way where that nobody was able to access what's happening inside. Even if somebody's running that computer, like they cannot actually access through just like inspecting processes or whatever what's happening there. Now, that on itself is only a part of the story, right? I'm, as a user, sitting on the other side of the planet. How do I know that computer is running? How do I find it? And how do I encrypt my data for only being able to decrypt it inside there? And then how do I manage my context, all my history? This is where our kind of near chain signatures, which is effectively a multi-party computation system, comes in, allow you to effectively manage, like, do the key management, provisioning, all of those things in a trustless way as well. So you're really combining all of these pieces, both hardware security and cryptographic security, as like we allow more and more parties to join. The payment for the hardware providers will be done on the crypto rails. So really combining all these pieces together.
Yeah. And it does feel like there's a lot of things that Near has been building for a long time that are starting to come together. Another pretty significant piece of this is $7 billion that has moved through Near Intents since you guys have launched that. That helped unlock this whole Zcash movement. Give us a sense of how these things ultimately come together as you're thinking forward. I also saw that, just recently put out sort of what you're aiming is that soon private AI chat will have Near Intents integrated. This will allow for some interactions across Web3, but then you also said Web2 coming soon. Could you give us a sense as these things start, continue to develop?
That's that alpha that was previously mentioned.
So yeah, can you give us an idea of what this might look like as these pieces continue to develop on their own and then ultimately come together?
Well, I'm laughing because it's literally a tweet from 10 minutes ago. So
we're live.
Yeah,
baby.
we do our research
real time.
or you're reading Twitter while interviewing previous guests. No, I mean, so here's maybe like couple year vision, right? And then we can work backward. Couple year vision, I think more and more of our interaction with computers, with phones, with our devices is going to be AI facilitated, right? Because AI will know so much about you. Like, you won't need, go and click through stuff. You won't need to go like Uber, enter an address or copy paste it from the calendar or whatever, right? Like, all of that will just automatically done. Like, it knows you have a meeting, it'll get you a car. And so how does it work? Well, your AI is, the brain obviously needs to be private, needs to have all your context privately, needs to be able to predict and reason and do all those things. This is why, by the way, just local doesn't work, right? You need this background intelligence that's running there, that's able to consume all this information. That's why we need this kind of decentralized confidential cloud. Now, whenever it knows what you need, right? Let's say you need a taxi to airport, or you want to get some food that's healthy and will make sure you have energy for the next meeting. It will effectively issue an intent saying, hey, I'm looking for this kind of food. You get different providers. It scans, evaluates them, chooses the right one, and then does a transaction. Right? All of that is happening on potentially on the background, or maybe it comes back to you and says hey, confirm this exact interaction. But intent is effectively the language that AI is talking to other AIs or service providers to really get to the the agreement and execution across the internet, right? And you can imagine this not just for consumer use cases, but also for, real commerce businesses where, hey, we need to deliver steel, like the solver comes in and says, cool, I will be able to, procure it from a mine, get the shipping containers, get the port, allocated, etc., warehouses rented, and insurance, and I will get a loan for the float of the money while this is in transit, right? Like all of this packaged, boom, you get like a full package, 5 like RWAs effectively packaged into a single NFT that you can deal with, right? So that's kind of where all of this is going. And so Intent's really, right now, we're proving it out on the simplest thing, which is crypto. Crypto is simplest because it's the simplest to verify, right? We have all the kind of easy tools to verify it. We have chain signatures to really manage assets across all these chains. This is why, like, indeed, with Zcash, it was kind of really powerful because it was very easy to kind of integrate and start get it going and make sure it's trustless. And now, going forward, like Intent starting to really connect into Web2 service providers, right? Be that travel, be that food, be that transportation, but actually like also just any API, right? Like, hey, my AI needs weather report, my AI needs this and that. Right now, if you're trying to do this, I was actually trying to do something and I needed like a price in my Google spreadsheets. And I need like go sign up for another API provider, get the API key. It's like super complicated, right? Like my AI should just be able to figure it out, not needing to register for everything. So that's an Intent infrastructure. And then AI kind of, and they all work together. Agents effectively are solvers on the back end. And we already have some of these examples where some agents are effectively running and solving Intent on the financial side, but you can see this expanding to more and more use cases.
Yeah, and Ilya, will your AI travel with you? Like when you're filling in, let's say it's a Google Sheet, is that going to be your AI that you're kind of bringing from service to service, traveling, whether it's on a local device or it's kind of omnipresent across all of your devices? Or is that Google's AI, right? That is filling in the Google Sheet. It's going to go have to communicate with other agents. How do you see this interoperability working?
Yeah, I actually think you're gonna have like a one AI that's yours, that like similar how wallets work. Like I actually think Web3 kind of front run this shift. Like traditionally, you have a service providing your software. You come in, you register, and you use it. Web3 said no. Actually, you come with identity, and developers push software to you, right? Like so smart contract is kind of lives there, and you can call it. Front ends in theory can actually just be like fetched and run on your side. And so I think same idea happening here, and we'll see this already with like, again, kind of how we're imagining with AI Cloud, right? You can actually have developers build services, MCP servers or agents that run on users' context and information inside this private enclaves. Right? And so this way, as a user, you don't need to share information with third party, with developer, right? Their stuff comes to you, right? That can be just AI model, or it can be a full AI like service and agents. And so then your AI effectively travels with you. It has all the context. It knows everything about you, and it's able to still communicate with other people's AI, as a company's AI, or some other autonomous agents in this Intent architecture, where effectively it's some kind of transaction, it's some kind of counterparty agreement.
Got it. And you're on mute.
Yeah, if we think about wallets in as a similar analogy to like how we'll use AI in the future, kind of across multiple applications, multiple websites and things. When it comes to how we're generating actual like yield using agents, I think you guys introduced this, or Near 20 introduced this agentic yield concept that I think is relevant to the private chat, as well as relevant to kind of like what Rob's getting at here. How do you see agents then reshaping yield across DeFi over the next year or so? Whether it's I want to use Near private chat to go and do strategies on chain, or if it's just embedded into my wallet within the lens of that previous point. How do you kind of see this agentic yield and this AI agent yield kind of concept coming about?
Yeah, I mean, it can come from both directions, right? It can be that you instruct your AI to effectively like, hey, every hour go check, what's the best rates, where the best things are given my risk tolerance, and rebalance and reallocate. And so that you can actually, again, near intent is a great platform to do the execution of that exact system, and we have something interesting coming on that side. Now, the other side that is similar is, we've seen this with Morpho, right? Has been a lot of like kind of curators which may not been managing risks very well. And it's really just opaque from a blockchain perspective, how it's actually working. And so you can imagine actually curators being AI agents, autonomous AI agents. And so they're very transparent, you know exactly what they are, right? There's, the prompt and the data feeds, etc., all verified, auditable, but they run inside, near AI cloud, so they're verifiable and private. So because, you don't want to reveal the decision that they make when they allocate things. So this was the example we had launched called Mindshare Agent, which was effectively using, analyzing Twitter sentiment about different assets and rebalancing portfolio around that. So you can have kind of this coming from both directions, and it will depend really, like the curator model is good when you have kind of way to access to, various different assets, and then that might be even off chain, right? Like the AI agent can actually have a legal representation, and it can go and actually get, like real credit from bank or whatever, or invoices, there's travel insurance, etc. Yep. Like all of those things like can be packaged and then provided as a yield. Or your AI agent, which is more about being personal, about understanding your needs, like, hey, I'm spending this much per month, so I need to like withdraw that to pay my bills, like all of those management, like your AI agent your AI assistant effectively will be doing all of those actions and kind of reallocating between different curators and different assets.
Yeah. Okay, then so that's kind of like the DeFi crypto native version of this. When we zoom out to, because I know you're extremely well connected in kind of like the traditional AI space as well. So I'm sure you've, talked to a lot of your friends about this product launch and now that it's out there. So kind of zooming out from like the Web3 world, but into the more kind of like broad space here. I guess very bluntly, like, does anybody care about this private AI stuff outside of like us, like cypherpunk kind of people? Like, how has like Silicon Valley, San Fran type people reacted to this? Do you think that you can kind of push the needle towards this movement happening more broadly within like the big players? Just let's kind of have a more holistic conversation about the state of affairs outside of crypto.
Yeah, so great question, and this is why we launched with few different like non-pure crypto or non-crypto at all clients, because that was kind of, we wanted to validate this. And as I mentioned, I think there's few aspects where this is extremely needed, right? So robotics is one, legal is another one, because they literally have the confidential and privileged that they need to deal with, and right now, some of them just like set up their like local models and do stuff on their local computer, which, the model quality is really bad. And also, you cannot share, like there's a lot of challenges with that. Finance, like non-crypto, but actual finance as well. They have a lot of like actual limitations on how the customer data can be moved around. So again, like if you want to do something more than just like ask basic questions to AI, but actually analyze the internal data, that's highly valuable. And then interestingly, governments, every government outside of US wants to make sure they don't depend on just US for the AI. And even between departments in a government, imagine there's a government department that's IT and government department that deals, for example, like police, right? Well, police doesn't want all of their information be available to some employee of the IT department, government. Like they have no idea who they are, right? So, like in general, it's extremely valuable for kind of enterprise government use cases, and then for users, I think it's a nice to have for sure. It's not like, hey, we're gonna change our behavior per se. Except for the slice of users who are on Signal, those kind of people, which we are, and And then that's why we're partnering with Brave. We're partnering with like applications who are really bringing this kind of experiences forward. Now, medium term, it's about building better product. As I said, to me, privacy is enabler, where we now can kind of allow users to connect all kinds of data, all kinds of access. Again, you as a company have internal databases that you individually have access, but you probably weren't going to give it to a third-party software. And so that is, really where the opportunity is. Like, hey, look, this is as if you were running stuff locally. You can now give access to, tools like to databases, to your CRM, to your emails, to all of this information. Now your AI is way smarter. It can do a lot of actions on your behalf. You can like set up background, update processes, etc. Which, again, for example, we're using CRM. I don't trust that CRM provider with my email. Like, my email is too sensitive, right, as a CEO of foundation. And so like I'm missing on all the features of the CRM being able to track my meetings and stuff, for example, because of this. And so like you kind of need this type of tech to really kind of integrate all of the different aspects of your life, really. And kind of trust with, there's medical data, finance, your crypto balances, etc. Like all of this can be integrated in one.
Yeah. For this to really work, that's how it has to happen. And one of the foundational pieces of this technology stack, obviously there's the privacy point, but there's also this model that is feeding the responses and doing a lot of the work underneath the hood. And I'm curious how this works when you're training a model that is still private. Like the Near AI private chat uses Xi or GLM 4.6. This is different from like Llama and Meta and GPT and like all of these other models that are, on the more centralized platforms. Where did this model come from? Could you give us just a little bit of history about what makes this model special, why you guys chose to use it for Near AI, and how it helps enable privacy?
Yeah, so we actually have we have 4 models available in the chat. You can use DeepSeek 3.1, Qwen, GLM, and GPT-OSS, which is OpenAI's open source model. So you actually have an options, and the idea is to be able to support more and more over time, including we want to support third parties being able to upload their models. So if, for example, OpenAI and Anthropic want to upload their model, we guarantee that it's not going to get decrypted, right? It's going to always stay encrypted at rest and then only gets decrypted inside secure enclave. And so there's an idea actually that this is a better way to monetize, maybe not for those big players, but for smaller players who may not have enough capacity to to provide inference services and to deal with users' data and do all those things. Like, this is actually a way for them to serve models to users. The reason why we picked these models, this is actually, set of best open weight models right now in the market. And we've been kind of updating as things change. Generally we use open weight models. We're working on some improvements around like tool calling and a few other things too. But right now relying definitely on the open source community.
Cool.
In that lens, Ilya, if you're talking about a better product, right? Not just the private aspect, but a better product. There are tons of kind of wrappers where you can choose whatever model that you want to or you can get the result from 3 models at the same time. If you're thinking about from the better product lens to get this thing adopted outside of, let's say the Signal type people or the CEOs of foundations, like what is required for you guys to do that? Like what is on your product roadmap, or what are you thinking about from the product perspective to make it a better product? Because there are just kind of like these model aggregators that exist. They may not be private. So you've got a private model aggregator here, but what is required to really make this better than what's already out there?
Yeah, so we have a few hypotheses and we're testing them right now. So that's an important part here is like, a lot of it comes from the users and, we can only hypothesize. But, personally, I think it's a combination of improving memory and context management. So right now, outside of, probably only OpenAI, honestly, Everything else has, very forgetful model. It doesn't really know much about you. OpenAI done pretty good job at like really extracting a lot of the context, background context, and then providing it to the next messages. So I think that's a big part. And again, the benefit here is like we can connect to more data sources. And so we can actually get a lot more context and keep it private for you. Now, that goes into the second part, which is really enabling to connect to more tools, to more MCP servers, to more kind of external information. And so that's really about kind of, MCP server support, which would in turn enable a lot of things like actually using crypto. So for example, we do have near intense MCP server, and so your AI can actually start doing those actions. And there's like few other interesting product kind of ideas we have around how to display the outputs, etc., to really enable kind of better. Like I think in a lot of cases, the people use text as an output, which is not always the best when you actually go in. Like, for example, trading. A lot of people like, oh, I want to say, buy me $100, but in reality, nobody really wants that. You want the trading UI, right? And so you kind of want you maybe want to start with like, hey, I'm in the trading mode, but then you want actual like UIs, like charts, etc. So there's like a good mix and match of UI and kind of text and tools that needs to be working together. And again, this is where potentially like relying on open source community to be able to build those let's say skills or plugins and really surface them would be very valuable.
And so the idea is that you kind of open up this this platform, almost make it permissionless. Maybe there's some gatekeeping that you guys can do initially, but you allow this to be a platform where you can encrypt these other models, and then you can help people route and move between these things. We've heard a lot about X402 and MCP and these different models or these different standards that can help connect models together, ultimately use a lot of these things at our fingertips, but use it more efficiently and seamlessly coordinate across these different things. How much weight do you put on these? Have you seen a standard that has really stuck out to you and says, yeah, this is something that, we know is going to stick around. We're going to build around this particular standard. You guys creating your own standards. What do you think is the trajectory for these things?
Yeah, so I think it's important to understand that, there's very different levels of the stack, right? So MCP server is really just an API kind of standard for AI to call. I mean, AI can figure out without this, honestly, but it did become kind of standard. And so now in AI, the thing is like there's actually a really interesting referential loop, because as something more people use it, it's more in the training data. It's more in training data. It actually just becomes like AI gets better at using it. So that's probably like for MCP already happening. X402, I think the 402 itself is a very useful primitive, right? So 402 is the HTTP code, which was not used historically. It was there for like last 20 years. And now we say like, hey, let's use 402. So that's a conceptual idea. We were part of the X402 launch and kind of as near intense as well. We have a demo how it works. I think there's like more work needed to really improve this. But I think directionally, like the 402 as a concept, where effectively in the HTTP request, you can establish a session and pay for it versus go and sign up for API key separately, like that's extremely valuable. And so I think that's going to be a part. And then the intents is, again, flipping the script where instead of saying, hey, I need to call this API, to call, hey, I need this outcome. I need weather for Lisbon for tomorrow. And somebody says like, cool, I'll provide it to you for whatever, a microcent. So that's where 402 can be used. And so intents plus 402 plus MCP, all of these things really working together. That's kind of where we're going with this.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Ilya, as we kind of come to a close here, thinking about the kind of effect of where we're headed with private AI, privacy as a concept near the protocol, you guys have had some also interesting protocol updates, things like, cutting inflation by half, these types of general ideas. There was this L1 debate yesterday with Hasib and Santiago, and talking about what the valuations are. And people are going to be wondering how a lot of these products that you've developed, including the Intense product, kind of re-tie in back to near the blockchain as well as near the asset. For the community out listening today, kind of how are you thinking about 2026 as a year of reigniting near the chain, near the asset, and kind of participating in this more pragmatic crypto environment, let's say, that we found ourselves in, the return to fundamentals environment here? What do you have to say to the community who have been alongside Near for so long? And we can kind of come to a close here.
Yeah, I think, obviously at the end, it's all supply demand, right? And so we had a halvening of inflation. And so reducing the upcoming supply, the future supply, and then all of these efforts, one way or another, driving more demand. Think of it as like the decentralized conventional cloud itself is going to use Near as kind of a fee structure underneath. It is a profitable business with 20, 30, 40% margin, depending on efficiency of the inference. And so that kind of generates surplus of Near from what it provides to validators. Similarly with Intense, right? There's actual revenue being generated. It's more complicated because there is actually because the way the different UIs use it, it's not as kind of visible right now. Like we show the total fees paid by the users, but the actual revenue, like we're working on how to display it properly, because there's some agreements with some of the front ends because they want to charge a fee, and so there's a little bit of just different structure. But I think one thing I want to mention, given your always return to fundamentals, there is actually an interesting comparison. Let's say let's say there's 100 parties that pay $10 million in fees. This is one model, and you take these fees and you buy back the token, and you burn it or you just keep it. Or you can imagine the same parties actually just end up buying the token directly instead of paying the fees, and maybe lock it for a year, 2 years, 3 years, etc. Economically, the same amount of Near or whatever, a token was taken out from supply for at least some period of time. But now you have this 100 parties super aligned with Near, right? And their fees are zero. So from a competitive perspective, they actually going to choose this product versus another product which will have non-zero fees.
So we're gonna force people to be token holders as a result of using this awesome product.
This actually sounds a lot like AI companies in the mag set, like these larger AI companies that are trading stocks for compute.
Yeah, but I think there is something about that where there is a value in having your customers to be token holders instead of them just directly paying. And so one of the things we're working on is proposing some of the dynamics around that for Near token, where we want more Near token holders who are getting value out of all of these products we're building.
Yeah.
Right? Think simple. If you stake some amount of Near, you have private AI inference, up to some limit for free.
Yeah.
Those kind of things now, it's hey, there's a value in holding Near, and then maybe your fees are reduced when you're trading, so you're actually getting more and more benefits from doing that.
Yeah. Last thing for you, Ilya, from me, we actually had a really good conversation yesterday with Sal Ternello, the CEO of Sovereign, who is building out the current Near treasury company, I think the largest or the only. And basically in that conversation, we spoke about how because of the acquisition of such a sizable quantity of the supply of a given asset, in this case, he was speaking about up to 10% of the total Near supply, you become a large, shareholder, stakeholder, and contributor to the network, almost like a separate labs corp. We were speaking about how there's this labs and the foundation because of the regulatory, body, and now you've kind of got like these third entities who are like Tom Lee now owns 4% of something or of ETH. And, now Sal is going to try to get up to 10% of Near. How do you think about this dynamic when it comes to these treasury companies, when it comes to them owning, a substantial portion of these networks, and then hearing their opinions, acting on them, keeping them as happy as possible, et cetera. How do you think about this, either with Near and Sal or just, at large?
So I actually think this is something I've been thinking a lot about when this dat's starting to come out, and I think that is actually the most aligned third party to the ecosystem, right? It's actually more aligned than even Foundation from like a structural perspective, because it effectively means that their market cap is directly attached to the value of the token, and they can go into and like their fiduciary duty is to maximize their market cap, right? So like foundations, for example, don't have that as fiduciary duty, right? I mean, obviously, like some foundations are very much looking after that, but regulatory environment, etc., it's been hard to even go and say that. But the DATs actually don't have that challenge. They are very much directly like, hey, we're a public traded security. Our market cap directly depends on market cap of the underlying token, and our fiduciary duty is to maximize this market cap. And usually the executives are incented directly with the equity of the company. So now the challenge with DATs has, been that they mostly been just like a kind of hold and maybe stake type vehicle. And so what, with Sal, the exciting thing is really like, hey, we have, a really executive team that can actually build interesting businesses in this that, generate surplus that they can reinvest into buying more Near, or they can reinvest into providing more GPU compute to the network, which in turn will get them more Near, right? Because GPU compute gets paid in Near. And so the idea is like, hey, look, this is actually value additive to the ecosystem. They can build a business, but this business is like, normally if you build a business, your goal is to maximize the business. So you're going to go and do other stuff, other ecosystems, whatever. Here, it's very directly like, hey, but at the end goal is to maximize value of the token. And so from this perspective, it's actually a better structure than even foundations. And so, it's pretty exciting. And I'm excited to working with Sal on keep growing Near.
Yeah, Sal was great. One of the more active approaches, more intentional of driving value back to the token holder because of the incentive alignment, like you said.
It sounds like you're in a crime scene over there, Ilya.
We're looking for you.
That's because I talked about maximizing value of the token. It's like immediately.
Oh, man. Ilya, man, thank you for spending some time with us today. Have a great evening, and congrats on the big launch. It's been awesome working together, seeing you guys grow. It feels like this has been the perfect time for not only this show, but for all the pieces that you guys have been putting together from Near's perspective. So props to you guys, and return to fundamentals, man.
Thanks for having me, and everybody should check out the private Near.ai.
Awesome.
Yes, sir. All righty.
Thanks, Ilya.
See you soon, man. Bang. All right, guys, we will be right back with our next guest, but real quick, we just got to recap that thing. Rob, key takeaways, thoughts, how are you feeling?
I think the forethought from Ilya as well as the Near team, obviously the first time Ilya came on, he was kind of describing this vision because at a high level, it is somewhat counterintuitive. Why go and build, it's primarily an AI company. I think that's what people fail to realize. The blockchain, intense, all of these are side quests. And then you end up having, some of the best crypto companies out there. Like I saw CowSwap is now choosing Near Intense.
Oh yeah.
For like
side quest became the main quest really quick with the Near Intense product.
Right. And so these things, were kind of born out of necessity. And because there weren't products out there on the market, they had to build it themselves. And then, well, when you look at that, they ended up building the best version of that product, even after people realized that there was a gap in the market and ended up choosing that as their main focus. Ilya and the team Near still had the forethought and the execution to end up going and build the best product on the market. So I think, because of that early vision, now they have a full suite, and it was just a matter of time. These things were all being built in parallel.
Yeah.
But now, it's really, really cool to see a lot of these things come together. And I do think you made the point at the end there where, we're seeing this happen in the more Web 2 AI market as well.
Yep.
They're basically creating the next iteration of the problem. And Ilya and Near have always been 2 steps ahead at creating the solution. The ChatGPT sponsored post thing really, look, I'll be honest.
We knew it was coming, though.
We knew it was coming. ChatGPT was kind of my daily driver when it came to AI.
Is it not anymore?
It's certainly not looking that way for the near future.
Yeah.
The near future.
I think if this can push the needle for Web 2 AI to think more seriously about privacy, then I think that's the biggest win here. That's why I was trying to, kind of get to that with Ilya. Like, is this going to drive broader, bigger companies to be like, oh, there is a clear consumer demand for this kind of like private AI solution? And so that is yet to be seen, but I think would be one of the more exciting outcomes from this general launch and product. So guys, we're going to take a super quick break here. We're going to shuffle some things around, get ready for our next guest. We got a big M&A acquisition with Galaxy and Alluvial coming in, just happened today, fresh off the wire a couple hours ago. So we're going to get them on and talk about that. It's M&A season in crypto, guys. Thanks for being here for episode 12 of the AI Supercycle. See you guys in just a second.
Yeet is built for big moments. The most fun you'll ever have with your crypto. Go to yeet.com to yeet into your next game.
Not your keys, not your coins. From the team that pioneered cold storage, Trezor has just released its new wallet. Guys, if you are still using hot wallets in 2025, 2026, you are missing the entire point. Secure your coins. Get a Trezor at trezor.io.
Go anywhere on chain instantly with Relay.link. Relay is closing in on $10 billion transferred. Go to Relay.link to bridge your assets now.
Money shouldn't wait for Mondays. Following its real upgrade, Polygon is now one of the fastest chains for stablecoin transfers and payments. Visit Polygon Technology to learn more.
Kalshi is the world's largest prediction market. You can trade on anything in all 50 states. Go to Kalshi.com to trade today.
Talk to AI like your lawyer or your doctor or your therapist. Yours, private, and here today. Visit near.ai to have a fully private chat experience.
Havachi is fast and private perps trading, secured by ZK with Celestia underneath. Go to hibachi.xyz to start trading today.
Looking for yield that stands out? Infinify gives you just that. Deposit stablecoins and earn far more than the current savings rate. Infinify is a battle-tested, reliable DeFi platform that is ready to go. Head to infinify.xyz.
Halliday is unified crypto payments. Give your users more wherever they are. Go to halliday.xyz to never write a smart contract again.
Open, stable, borderless. Frax is building the next generation of stablecoin infrastructure for the digital finance era. Visit frax.com to learn more today.
Yeet is built for big moments. the most fun you'll ever have with your crypto. Go to yeet.com to yeet into your next game.
Not your keys, not your coins. From the team. Alrighty, guys, it is M&A season. We've got Zane from Galaxy and Chris of Liquid Collective / Alluvial in the back. We're ready to get fired up. Galaxy has been making quite a few moves as of late in the M&A and kind of acquisition / IPO. I don't know. All I know is there's an institutional tokenization bull run happening in New York City. We were there a couple weeks ago at SmartCon, and it felt like we were in an episode of Wolf of Wall Street. And then you go on crypto Twitter, and it feels like you're in an episode of like your like worst sad dream that is a nightmare that you can't escape. So we're gonna stay on the positive side of history. We're gonna stay in the institutional bull run. Let's get the guys up and let's get started. Zane and Chris, Galaxy Digital acquires Alluvial Finance. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Pleasure to have you guys.
Absolutely. It's M&A season. Like we were saying, congrats, guys. Galaxy Digital's been making waves. And I think, the question on everyone's mind is why now? How did this happen? How did this come together? We want to hear the whole story.
Yeah, Chris, give us the lore from your side, right? Being the acquiree, you're working hard to build a business. People are telling you to launch a token. They want to, your investors need to get paid. People are on your ass. You've built an amazing product. Talk to us about kind of how this all happened.
Yeah, so I mean, if we go back a few years, actually, my interaction with this was I was the chief strategy officer at a company called 3IQ, and this was 2022, 2023. I was trying to launch the first Ether staking ETF in North America, and trying to solve the unbonding issues, trying to solve the liquidity challenges for ETF was a real problem, and there was no solutions really in the market solving this. That's when I actually met the Liquid Collective folks back then, and I quickly became an advisor. I've been working with them for the last few years, and today, if we zoom forward to today, like we're at an inflection point where 2025 has been a breakout year for liquid staking. The SEC released guidance on LSTs. We've been thought leaders in that space for years, kind of designating LSTs as quote unquote warehouse receipts. You can kind of think of it like in the commodity ecosystem, like you have a barrel of oil sitting in a warehouse. You want to be able to have people trade those barrels without having to actually move the physical barrels, right? And so the SEC came out with guidance that LSTs essentially are very similar to that. They're a receipt token, they're not securities. And so that really is like the huge inflection point that's just starting to allow real true institutions to start thinking about engaging with these types of products. We're seeing ETF issuers start to activate staking, treasury companies start to activate staking. Bonding queues have been brutal in the ETH space, 40, 50 plus days.
Yeah.
So like all of this is kind of culminating at the same time where there's this void in the ecosystem for institutional liquid staking solutions. And that's what Liquid Collective is really filling the void for. And the partnership with Galaxy is like a watershed moment for us in the ability to really amplify the Liquid Collective's presence through obviously the institutional channels that Galaxy has super strong relationships in.
Amazing. And so, Zane, from your perspective, Galaxy expands into liquid staking as the development company for Liquid Collective here. Chris just gave us an amazing background and backdrop as to how they kind of started. And it's actually pretty ironic, Chris. Brian Armstrong just put out this tweet saying that they finally created this no waiting time product for unstaking on Coinbase, officially live. I saw a couple gnarly quote tweets saying it's kind of a sign of the times. People are trying to get out of their bags. I don't know what they're doing, but Zane, from your perspective, why is this so important? Why is liquid staking and becoming this devco for Liquid Collective a great move? Why did you acquire Alluvial?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, my story starts a few years ago as well when I first met the Liquid Collective and Alluvial team. We've been building an institutional staking platform for the past couple of years. We've grown substantially. As of our last earnings report, we've got a $17 billion global platform, of which 6.6 billion is assets under stake. And for us, really, Galaxy has been a major institutional player and a force. And what do we have that I think the Liquid Collective maybe hasn't had exactly behind it before? We have excellent trading services, lending services, derivative and structuring desks. We are integrated into every major custodian, into every major exchange. And so really to us, the future is on chain, and we go from, physical staking, if you will, to liquid staking. That is the next unlock for us. Like, we are obsessed with the institutional, onboarding experience. We have been really focused on the regulatory moment, but also capital efficiency, real on-chain utility, clever financial structures. These are the things that I think can all be paired quite nicely into an institutional LST platform like Liquid Collective. Like, the foundation is there. We're really here to turbocharge our efforts, but then also be very mindful of keeping the foundation and Chris and his efforts separate and distinct as a neutral entity, because really the future is in, we think, a consortium model around driving an institutional liquid staking standard.
Because what separates an institutional staking product from a retail one? Like, we've all seen some of and there was a big wave when it came to Rocket Pool, Lido, right? Some of these guys, they were around and caught a lot of attention a while ago, and they got some adoption, but it's really been an institutional cycle as of late. This is where the attention is now. What is the difference maker? Is it compliance? Is it custody? Where you guys say you guys have an edge?
Yeah, I think it's a variety of things. I think first and foremost, the retail products that have been out there are designed for retail users. They're completely permissionless, right? So that's for the first thing. Anyone can mint and redeem into these other liquid staking pools, and that doesn't really jive super well with like institutional users. Is someone like BlackRock going to stake into an institutional pool where there's been no KYC AML on the assets going in and out? There's no OFAC compliance around the assets that are coming in and out of the pool. It doesn't really seem likely. Also, under these retail platforms, there's, in some cases, 100+ validators, many of which are like small community validators. And that's a good design for a retail product, which is very focused on being leaning totally into the decentralized narrative. But for an institution who really wants to have their arms wrapped around institutional diligence for the underlying validator operators, like the node operators, they want to have a select subset of institutional node operators that give them diversification, but aren't Zane in his basement staking at his mom's house. They want it to be really robust institutional entities like Galaxy and like Coinbase and Figment. And so I think those are some of the design decisions that are fundamentally different. And then we can go beyond that, like thinking about other ways that institutions are going to want to engage here, things like governance. Zane mentioned this before, but like these retail platforms have this decentralized governance model. So they're very much more like a DAO structure with all these retail participants voting. Institutions want to have more of a more institutional consortium model where they have decision-making and oversight capabilities over the protocol itself. And so I think those are fundamental design decisions that we're taking into account and we've baked into the way that the Liquid Collective is structured today.
Yeah. Zane, I mean, from your perspective here, you guys are looking to, so you got this 6.6 billion in assets under stake. It's a very institutional firm. As I had mentioned, there's this kind of institutional Wolf of Wall Street style bull run happening, in the offices in New York. It's actually insane. The juxtaposition of sentiment and of desire to participate in the space from those who've been around for a while versus those who are really trying to, make a long-standing stance and really enter with size. It is the furthest separated I've ever seen it. When it comes to actually scaling Alluvial here, right, and scaling this liquid kind of staking opportunity, I'll throw you a curveball here. We actually had Hasib and Tarun from Gauntlet on the show in June at Permissionless, and we were speaking about how kind of proof of stake is dead, right? There's this idea that we're overpaying for security, that validators are effectively earning all this inflation when it's really not. It's not really contributing to the network security. We can cut these rates down. Near is talking about pulling their or actually they've already cut their inflation rate by 50%. So Solana's trying to do the same thing. How do you think about this from Galaxy's business perspective about the trajectory of these networks? Where do you see the value in staking continuing to accrue? How do you plan to kind of like capture that?
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, a lot to unpack there. So I would also agree with the view that we will have to wean ourselves off of inflation in due course, because we've built all this tremendous block space, this incredible technology, but really inflation shouldn't be keeping us afloat. It should be like rev or realized, economic activity on these chains. And I think what you're going to find, and this is sort of our thesis as well on the institutional side, is that, crypto a couple of years before, especially in an institutional context, was more of just an idea. A lot of people, for various obvious reasons, were dismissing the idea of digital assets and transformation as a competitive threat. I think it's no longer a conversation about if, it's more of a when. And even in the past week, right? I'm not going to name names, but a number of tier 1 financial institutions, wealth platforms, all these guys are now onboarding native Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, whatever it is, trading. That is a major unlock, right? In order to retain their assets and keep their customers sticky to their platforms, they have no choice but to, hold their noses and onboard crypto. That's an amazing moment for us, right? It was an eventuality, and now we're here, right? Inevitability. But to move that thing even further, right? Staking is still fundamentally important. We think that everything that Chris was saying before around bonding queues in Ethereum, for example, and like a more capital efficient, transferable, tokenized representation of that staking object is quite powerful in its own right. And so I think there's a real home for liquid staking tokens versus just native staking in general. And that's kind of part of the play here. But bigger picture, we subscribe to the view that the future truly is on chain. I know that sounds a little bit hokey, but the reality is, like, we've gone from a conversation around, tokenized money market funds or whatever it is, but people are going full steam ahead into tokenized equities, right? And all this block space and the stake that's, securing this block space, there's going to be, I think, a lot of interesting stuff around owning that block space, which is basically the information rails for all these, this economic activity that we expect to happen, which is QSIPs trading on chain, right? Like, if the world truly moves on chain, then validators will still have economic, it'll still be accretive to them economically, just not in the way it is today. And I think that's the maturation of what proof of stake and securing the network actually looks like.
Chris, anything to add there?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I also think it's worth noting that like native staking has design challenges for institutional users, for all users, like the lack of liquidity, the lack of customization, the inability to make the assets productive. And I think our view and what Galaxy shares is like longer term, all staking ultimately becomes liquid staking. I think that's really the path. It's the current native staking meta is becoming more and more commoditized. There's not a ton of differentiation across the ecosystem today. I think certain folks like Galaxy have a really interesting position because they have this whole suite of services. It's not just a staking business that are super complementary. But some of these other standalone, like just staking operator businesses, they don't really have a really strong competitive advantage in my view. And so what I think is really powerful here is the union of Galaxy and Liquid Collective actually is like the first time that an institutional native staking solution and institutional liquid staking solution are really being paired together side by side and being offered to the institutional landscape. So I think that's going to be a really huge differentiator that no one else in the landscape has.
Yeah.
And now that the engineering roadmap is really spearheaded by Galaxy, what are some of the upgrades that you guys are targeting, right? By unifying, ultimately you're looking at the next segment of customers that you're trying to onboard, or ultimately upgrading the existing customer set. What are some of the features that you're particularly geared towards and targeting as unlocking what this next wave adoption is going to look like?
Totally. I will disappoint in saying, this is still fresh and we just announced this morning. We just passed embargoes, but I think in broad brushstrokes, right? Like Galaxy, we have the good fortune of being in this space for many, many years. It has not always been easy. You know, we've navigated a bunch of market cycles. I mean, you guys have been there through it all as well. But really, we've been institutional only. I mean, obviously, we just launched our own retail ambitions. But setting that to the side for a second, we have been in the rooms with all the platforms of today, all these major custodians, the crypto consumers, right? Hedge funds, allocators, whatever it is. And we're also in the rooms with the tier one financial institutions of tomorrow. And you better believe that we understand everything there is about the institutional condition, because we not only have we been servicing our clients this whole way, but we've been navigating it for ourselves, right? We are now a publicly traded, U.S. listed company on the NASDAQ that comes with its own rigors and controls, and everything that we do, I think, is contextualized from our TradFi roots and that DNA. And so we're going to find ways to transpose all of that into the product design, because really, to harp on the governance thing once more, Galaxy is a partner to the Liquid Collective in providing development services. That's sort of a day one, but really, and Chris, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. This is just the first leg of the journey, and we're so excited to bring other strategic institutional partners into the fold, and also contributing to the collective design and the steer of the roadmap, because this could also lend itself to the creation of what institutional protocol governance could look like.
Yeah. I am curious to hear from Chris, because we know the Liquid Collective is governed by this Liquid Foundation. And then ultimately this is going to make, some aspects of this governance stronger. Some things are going to stay the same. So Chris, maybe you can build on what Zane is describing here.
Yeah, absolutely. So as they mentioned, we see the Galaxy partnership as like the first step. And in 2026, one of our key goals is going to be to expand the Liquid Collective. So for those that don't know, the Liquid Collective was originally founded as like a joint initiative between Coinbase, Kraken, and Figment. Those were like the founding members of the Liquid Collective. And so the goal here is really, now we talked about like the inflection point and how the market is changing in the regulatory environment. Now, as Zane mentioned, we're focused on bringing in the next wave of institutional users, ETF issuers, treasury companies, TradFi institutions that potentially will sit around the table and be part of the governance structure. And we're super excited because Galaxy actually shares very much in this vision of keeping the Liquid Collective independent. That's the only way we actually really make the Liquid Collective and the institutional LST products pervade the entire ecosystem. I think we've seen that with like stable coins. Like if you just have like branded stable coins on platforms, a lot of times they don't really get that escape velocity and get integrated everywhere. In order to make the Liquid Collective the most robust, we want it to be integrated everywhere. We want all these different institutional participants to be part of this governance model. And so that will be a key part of the growth in 2026. We have the partnership with Galaxy. We have partnerships, Coinbase, and all these other institutions in crypto. We want to expand that user base and those institutions to sit around the table and be part of an institutional consortium that helps bring the Liquid Collective into the future.
Yep.
And could you describe how this next wave of adoption ends up getting involved, just even at a conceptual level, right? We know that BlackRock and some of these other ETF issuers they're doing really well. The Bitcoin ETFs, the Ethereum ETFs are some of the most successful ETF products that
Larry Fink's calling for 700K Bitcoin today, by the way. Just
oh wow,
700K is
or sorry, he's saying that sovereign wealth funds are buying Bitcoin. So clearly those Bitcoin ETF fees are getting to his level of the balance sheet kind of conversation here.
And so they're making ETF fees, but at the end of the day, they've got all of this ETH and all of this Bitcoin that is not really being put to productive use. What is the mechanic for BlackRock to either go and stake that and pass it back in the form of a staking ETF, or just go and stake it and pocket the extra yield?
Yeah. So I mean, firstly, with the recent comments from the SEC, ETF issuers have started to be able to activate staking in their products. There's limited for like Bitcoin. You can contemplate things like securities lending type structures or finding other ways to generate yield. We're not really there yet. On the ETH side and Solana and other proof of stake assets, though, ETF issuers have started to stake. I believe Grayscale was the first to activate staking in their ETH ETF back in October. And so now, that world is changing. That said, the ETF issuers do have limitations really about how much they can stake because of the liquidity challenge with staking. So, depending on the protocol, certain protocols obviously have shorter unbonding periods. But like for ETH, which as we mentioned before, 40 plus day unbonding periods, the ETF issuers are being relatively conservative and staking 50 to 60% roughly of their assets. And in order for them to continue to stake more of that, that's where this infrastructure that we were talking about really comes into play. Having robust, scaled, and liquid institutional liquid staking solutions that can allow those issuers to marginally continue to increase how much of the portfolio they can stake, that will help them increase the amount of staking rewards for their shareholders and to ultimately also benefit them as the manager.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
If I could just add one more thing, we are moving into, with the maturation of the industry, it's not a game of percentages necessarily anymore. It's a game of basis points, right? You think about the fee compression and like the relentless competition in the ETF and the ETP complex, right? How do you make your product a more competitive product? Well, you can cut fees, but that's not necessarily sustainable in the long run. Or you can find, risk-aware ways to increase the amount of your staking or your utilization ratio, whatever you want to call it, to pass along, another 5, 10, 15, I don't know, 1.5%, to your end customers. And it's an interesting concept where, the more you can actually allocate to staking and effectively put it to productive use within the product, the better the product becomes, which probably begets more inflows. And you've got this virtuous cycle, in the context of a staked a fund that actually is quite advantageous, to us here, right? We think that LSTs definitively play a role in the allocation matrix in that portfolio of the future. Now, to be clear, we're still working through some regulatory issues, some tax issues. There is work yet to be done, but an optimal outcome is this is a much easier, sort of like abstracting away all of the complexity, all of the liquidity dynamics that maybe work against the allocators. This is actually now a superior product that anyone could be using to improve the attractiveness of their product vis-a-vis their peers.
Yeah. And Zane and Chris, do you guys anticipate that, once we get the staking kind of aspects of, Bitcoin staking is kind of a weird thing because it's not exactly, you have to do it in a very unique way, because obviously just based on the network design from the consensus layer. But for ETH, for Solana, for some of these others, do you anticipate that the staked versions of these institutional instruments like ETFs, ETPs, et cetera, do these just become the de facto going forward? I guess like what I'm trying to ask is like in a world of staking enabled, is there any non-staking ETFs that get demand, or like how are these consumers and allocators actually thinking about whether it be the risk, the yield? Do they really care about the yield? Because I've gotten different opinions. Just kind of like, how do you see this playing out?
Yeah, I would say that for institutions like ETF issuers, it doesn't move at the same pace that crypto does. I think we're all in the crypto trenches. We're all used to things flying at light speed, and these guys, even though some of them are a little more crypto native, they generally operate, especially the BlackRocks and the Fidelities. They operate much more thoughtfully, much more long-term oriented. They're much more risk averse. They do much deeper diligence, and so today, the version of staking that they may interact with doesn't necessarily look like the final version of what their staking infrastructure looks like 3, 4, 5+ years from now. And I think when you go on that time scale, 5+ years, I think all of these proof of stake ETPs will ultimately be staking the vast majority, if not 100% of their assets. There will be robust infrastructure like institutional LSTs that are powering those solutions, and credit facilities and all these different components that are required. The market infrastructure that's not robust enough today, it will be there in 5 years as these guys are continuing to scale their products.
And I'll just add one more thing because I come from an interest rate derivatives background. I love the idea of staking because in effect you're passing on and I'm probably gonna get slapped for this, but a risk-free rate now. There's non-zero risk. Of course, they're slashing all kinds of other stuff, but you've got a nominal productive, yield or rewards rate on your underlying asset. And I think, Andy, what you're driving at is, yes, in theory, there could be a future in which it's not enough just to hold Ethereum, but your default way to get beta exposure to Ethereum is through an LST, because you've got Ethereum Plus just kind of out of the box. Now, what do we need to get there? Everything that Chris was saying before around market structure, et cetera. It is a liquid staking token. It's only as good as the liquidity behind it. But if you've got very efficient markets in the future, then in theory, LSTs could just be, sort of like the default way to leg into a position. And then we sort of move on to the next evolution of tokenized representations of things on chain.
Yeah, and because it's composable and that's to the nature of Ethereum, it's still usable on all the same places that ETH proper is. I'm curious, maybe so at an institutional level, one of the things that we've seen play out is this basis trade, where they're buying the spot and then they're shorting on the future, whether that be perps or it might be CME, right? And they're capturing the basis in between. How does implementing a staking rate change this basis trade? Is it going to create more a deeper spread or a wider spread and cause more basis as we have a staking rate that's available at the ETF level? Will this create a new basis trade for ETH and other staking ETFs? Zane, what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to explore there. I would say that, to the extent you're introducing another, rate into the basis math, then yes, I mean, where my mind goes immediately is, to the extent we do our job and we get, the LS tokens onboarded in as many places as possible. If this is eligible collateral with the right haircuts, at these exchanges where you can seamlessly use that as collateral against a futures position, then yeah, you'll have, LST basis opportunities. You've got, it's cool. Like I think where this ultimately goes, and this is where you're kind of driving, Rob, is like, markets are somewhat efficient, right? You're going to find new ways to express views and trades, incorporating now like the receipt of a rewards rate on your core collateral. That's very cool. There's a lot of interesting applications there, certainly a basis trading application, but just thinking of, that as part of your collateral basket for any credit product, any derivatives product, I think there's a lot of design space. And that's also what gets us excited at Galaxy, because, that's what we do really well here, and we have been doing for quite some time.
I would just add too, like some of the folks that have been running the basis trade for a long time, you guys might know the Supercycle guys, right? They have like a tokenized basis carry fund. They've used the Liquid Collective LSTs as part of those strategies over the last year for the long leg of that trade. And again, I think the efficiency will increase over time. To Zane's point, like being able to post it as collateral everywhere, it will make the economics better. But there's people even testing that exact type of strategy today. So I think that validates the thesis that you're getting at.
Yeah, beautiful. Gentlemen, congratulations on this collaboration, on this acquisition. Really looking forward to seeing how this plays out and just seeing how this ETF landscape plays out. We've got Paul Atkins earlier this week said that he's introducing this innovation exemption for our industry sometime early next month, which hopefully paves further for new IPOs, new acquisitions, and just more broad collaborative opportunities for this space like this one. So again, congratulations. Thanks for spending some time with us, and look forward to seeing what comes next.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Next time. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, boys. Boom. What a segment, Rob. I mean, I just like to spend more time in the institutional tokenization bull run than on the crypto Twitter doomer.
I'll see you in the tokenization tower. We'll be in New York. We'll be we're looking at office space. We're gonna make it happen. And
Rollup TV is in an institutional bull run in New York City, and the rest of you guys who are stuck on crypto Twitter, I'm sorry. It is not that pleasant down there. Well, what a great conversation, though, Rob.
Yeah. Yeah, I love thinking about this. You know, at times you could say that the institutional wave tends to get. I mean, you could call it boring, you could call it simple, you could call it peaceful. Ultimately, we're rebuilding a lot of these financial things. But you know, I think the basis trade, if you're looking at the pure math of it, this is where a lot of flows come in. Like you have BlackRock. BlackRock's a company. It's been around what 100 years, 50 to 100 years. Been around a long time.
Yeah.
Makes a ton of money, and you introduce a product like a Bitcoin ETF or an ETH ETFs. And all of a sudden, that rises to the #1 revenue producing product
of their
for a
entire
company.
stack.
Their
They've
entire
been around
stack.
since 1988.
And they've made the most money this year off of Bitcoin ETFs.
It's insane.
Crypto
Of
ETFs.
course,
at
Larry
large.
Fink is saying that of course Larry Fink is saying that
Show me
that
the incentives, I'll show you the
yeah,
outcome.
sovereign
And so
wealth
if
funds are
you're
buying.
and so much of that those flows, that revenue
Yeah.
comes from fees on the flows. They're basically getting trading
Yeah.
fees for their ETFs. And a lot of that has
Yep.
been due to the basis trade. People are taking out leverage.
Yep.
They're buying the ETFs. Those are the flows. Then they're going to go short on the CME. But as more and more people are going to, you know, take out leverage, it widens the basis. They're going to buy the ETF more and more. Adding this liquid staking rate on top of the ETF is going to widen the difference between the rate that you're getting on the ETF, which was 0. Now you're going to make it positive. And then the rate that is getting paid to you over on the other side when you short the CME or the perps, depending on
Yep.
what venue you choose. I think that wider spread is going to cause a greater basis trade, and it's just going to cause more and more capital to flow into
Well, that
the
was the
product.
FUD, though, man. That was the FUD. The FUD was like, oh no, the ETF inflows aren't real. We're actually just buying a bunch of ETH so we can short it on, you know, CME or whatever. And that's what this like institutional basis trade was. I mean, we'll see what happens there.
I mean,
but
it's FUD on one side when the basis trade unwinds, but it's bullish on it's positive on the other side when it expands, right? And these things
Yeah.
go through ebbs and flows.
we get the CEO of Dapper Labs, the co-founder of Flow.com, Roham. He's in the back. This guy just put out an absolute banger that shook the entire market 2 days ago. Had to have him on to talk about it, to talk about the Rob. You remember NBA Top Shots?
Of course.
That's this guy. You remember the most viral app of the entire 2020, 2021 run?
Yeah.
That was Rohan.
Look, Bored
Rohan.
Apes, Dapper Labs. I mean, the NFT it was an NFT mega run there back in 2020,
It was a
2021.
mega run.
NBA Top Shots was something that got out of the crypto sphere and made sense and resonated
Yes.
with real people.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
a
All right, well,
legend.
let's get Roham up. Let's get firing. Roham, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Absolutely.
It's good to hear you. I mean, I must say, whoever you involved on your copywriting skills here, that headline just got me like bang. It was like, what? We fucked up. Okay. We built apps with the world's most loved brands, protocols with millions of users onboarded and billions in volume. But our mistake was not enough of the value flowed to the believers who made it possible. We're fixing that now. Honestly, Roham, no fault to you. I think this is the broader trend of the industry as we're in this kind of maturation phase, trying to figure out where this value is accruing, trying to figure out kind of like, you know, what's happening into the token holders, shareholders. So before we get into the tweet, maybe just a little bit of context about what you guys have been building over the last several years since the Top Shot era, and just kind of like generally where you're at in your development as a founder, as an entrepreneur. Well, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Big fan and excited to be here. I mean, like you said, we announced to the world that, hey, we've been building these products. We've been building them for a couple of years. And, you know, we think that this sort of trend towards consumer finance and what it can enable for everybody is an absolute game changer. And it's going to change the way people live their lives and the way that they save their money, the way they think about finances over the next few years. And you know, our mission from the very beginning has always been take crypto technology and then build products that everyone can benefit. Whether it's for the NBA, NFL, Disney, we've, I think, shown that we can build products that everybody can understand at least. But now we're using that to kind of bring sort of empowerment to people's financial lives. So it's a very exciting chapter for Dapper and Flow. And the biggest change that I think has also happened this year is finally we feel free to actually innovate instead of, you know, being afraid of the regulatory environment and all of these things. So it's finally we can actually sort of think about alignment of interests and really the purpose of crypto is to share the value that's created with the people that help create it And that's kind of the mantra, whether in the NBA Top Shot team or now the Peak Money team, everyone's about, okay, how do we make more value for our users and token holders?
Yeah, and you've unveiled the Flow tokenomics as part of this post. I'm curious, was there one thing that stopped you from doing this? Was this an idea that you had back then? You guys kind of always were thinking that you were going to do this, but you were blocked by some reason, or did this gradually end up building and building ultimately to now? And you said, okay, now is the time because of its regulatory clarity or of just this philosophical incentive alignment. What was it that ultimately clicked and said, yes, now is the time to do this?
Yeah, so I mean, the DeFi direction, I think, was really the understanding that, hey, the adoption this cycle is actually happening through stable coins, through real world asset tokenization, but no one's building the product for everyone to access that value. Everyone's hearing about it, BlackRock, JP Morgan, and sure, you can go buy an ETF, but what's the actual sort of interface into this new tokenized world? And when it was clear that everyone from the White House to Treasury Department are talking about the modernization of the U.S. financial system through tokenization, it was we have to make this happen. We started laying the groundwork for a while. Like Flow became EVM equivalent at the end of last year. That took about a year or so to sort of make sure that the environment on Flow functions the same way as expected across every other L2. And so that made it really easy for Layer 0, for Fireblocks, for all of the sort of tooling necessary to kind of be seamless across the chains. And that's fundamentally what's led to kind of this point. But so that was one big unlock. And we've always been sort of on the trend of, okay, what else can we do with crypto beyond currency?
Yeah, and I mean, in this post, you kind of put that you're applying all this complex tech to this biggest market, which is money. So kind of let's go through some of these elements here, and we can kind of talk through some of the decision making and what our audience, what the community can expect. So first is this Flow Credit Markets. It's a lending protocol that is open source, being developed by the Flow Foundation. And you kind of have this vision of traditional DeFi lending being kind of antagonistic, let's say, versus like the view that you have with regards to how on-chain lending should happen. What's the lore here with Flow Credit Markets, and what do you expect to achieve by building this product?
Well, I mean, think about it. When you put whether it was the maker contracts back in the day or now with Aave, et cetera, you sort of take out a bunch of money. You have to manage that manually or through off-chain agents. And if the markets flash crashes or whatnot, you get liquidated or you're at risk of liquidation. With Flow Credit Markets, it's sort of saying, well, how can we maximize LTV? So you take out, instead of 50% or 40%, have you take out 80%, 90%? But then the instant that the markets is adjusted and you need to top up your balance, it actually just pulls that balance out of your wallet automatically instead of basically liquidating you. And so without any action whatsoever, the lending protocol can ask the wallet, hey, I need some dollars back or else you're going to get liquidated. And then what the wallet does is takes your yield position, unwinds it, pays back your debt. And then when Bitcoin goes back up or whenever your collateral goes back up, it takes out more debt, puts it in the yield source and whatnot. So it's a lending protocol that automatically manages your position to maximize LTV and minimize liquidation, sort of in one sentence. And it's possible because all of that on-chain actions happens on Flow where we have sub-second block times, and every block it can basically just check the prices and rebalance atomically and say, well, hey, I need to sell a little bit, I need to buy a little bit. And because, again, the costs are so low, because there's no MEV, because of the Flow architecture, all of that kind of becomes tractable. Whereas on, let's say, on any other network, Solana or Base included, you get chopped by fees constantly. And even if the automation was possible, which Flow is the most sort of leading chain in terms of being able to actually build these things without the need for off-chain agents, and so you kind of feel more protected because as long as the protocol is functioning, the thing that would liquidate you, you're constantly getting rebalanced.
Got it. And so this, this is the first component of this trifecta. This lending market, as you mentioned, it can maximize LTV, minimize liquidation, and this is complementary to the second component, which is a product you guys are calling Peak Money. My understanding of this is it's effectively a financial super app, whether you call that a neobank, kind of depending on up to interpretation. But like you lay out in your post here, Peak Money is the finance app for a generation that has stopped believing in banks. So maybe you could talk through what the philosophical backing to this is. For so long, this industry has been bank the unbanked, right? But I think you're absolutely right. And this is why we're seeing the rise of neobanks. We're losing faith in these traditional institutions. They've been giving us 0.0001% on our savings accounts for so long. We know that there's better options out there. Now there are alternatives that we can go and get. What was the inspiration behind Peak Money? And maybe you can give us a little bit more detail into what Peak Money is going to be capable of.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the big inspiration is that crypto finance, consumer finance, the next generation of it should be open and in the control of consumers. And the interface to that is going to not be the old sort of established institutions. It's going to be a native product that wraps around these new opportunities in ways that sort of give the benefit to the consumer. We talk to a lot of financial institutions. They talk about they're excited about tokenization because of reduced friction and lower fees and 24/7 markets and this kind of thing. But it's really the programmability that is most interesting to us, and what kind of interface can you provide to consumers when there's sort of infinite variety of different strategies they can participate in, where they don't have any middlemen to kind of from anywhere in the world to access any market at any time with any sort of derivative on top of it. If you include sort of what's possible with perps, et cetera. And so that was kind of the inspiration: is how do you build an open interface into this world, but that's as easy to use as Top Shot, and you don't have to sort of set up a traditional wallet, transfer money from a sort of Coinbase or whatever it might be. You can just on-ramp super easily with whatever payment method you have, and then participate in these DeFi products, which, by the way, a lot of the new tokenization of the world will mean sometimes you're using DeFi, but you're not actually using crypto, as in you might be interacting with real world assets like stocks or bonds or real estate or whatever it might be, or stable coins. And so it shouldn't feel like a blockchain product, even though it's using blockchain to do everything that it's doing. A lot of the users might just be, US dollars, and they might think of it as, hey, I'm just using a high yield account, or hey, I'm participating in some sort of lossless lottery. I'm participating in kind of a prediction market style game. But on the back end, these are all just like autonomously executing smart contracts and smart contract code. And so nobody was talking about it that way. And for us, the mission has always been, how do you build a product that introduces the benefits of all this stuff to people without sort of the crud and the technology? And what's the benefit? It's higher yield. What's the benefit? It's sort of the same opportunities as these institutions or high net worth individuals would have access to, but now it's sort of delivered to you in a very simple packaging.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The pragmatic approach here is you juice the efficiency gains that you get from blockchain. You apply those to things that people are accustomed to. People don't want, the wide variety of fluctuations in their currencies. That's why Bitcoin it's a store of value and it's not a currency, but they do want the efficiency gains and pass that back in the form of yield. And maybe you could fact check something that our team did some research. They found 15% is what you're suggesting on Peak Money. 15. What I have here, I don't know if this is true, but maybe you could fact check. Peak Money promises 15% plus APY and no liquidation risk. Is this what you guys are suggesting on Peak Money?
Yeah, I mean, look, the sort of the actual yield sources will be dependent on what the market can kind of provide. These aren't going to be juiced yield sources, but yes, the product will sort of incorporate the best yield sources across every chain, and they'll be bridged to flow also through layer 0, et cetera. And then when you come with a collateral like Bitcoin, we don't go farm Bitcoin yields. What we do is we put the Bitcoin in the flow credit market, we take out stablecoin, and then go farm stablecoin yield. And so which is typically the highest yield available out there. There's some sort of sometimes there's cryptocurrencies that have high yield as well. And the cool thing is we're not taking currency risk, because for example, if you're putting in dollars and you're borrowing a cryptocurrency and going farming crypto yield, your debt is denominated in the currency that you're borrowing. So if it crashes, you just take out more. If it pumps, you just pay it back. And so you're never it's always delta neutral. And that's the beauty of this thing. You can match any collateral with any yield type. And so I think the numbers right now that we think we can get is 50% for stable coins, and you have to then deduct the cost to borrow for the Bitcoin holders because it's a slightly different risk profile. So we think you can get high single digits for someone like Bitcoin, which is absolutely unprecedented. And so again, like the actual yields will be dependent once the product sort of is at scale, and it'll obviously be dependent on sort of the size of the market as well. And then the next thing that we're going to do is obviously bring sort of the consumer best practices here. And so it might be that up to a certain amount, you're getting a higher yield. So we're trying to sort of democratize and bring kind of more accounts in. And then, beyond that amount, you're getting a lower yield because you couldn't get that yield anywhere anyway. So it effectively is going to help drive whatever the most efficient yield is somewhere else. We can bring it here and then get higher leverage out of the lending protocol. And so, naturally we'll get a better offering than most things. And then the other piece is it's going to be super easy to use.
Yeah.
And so even for crypto people, it's kind of like it's set and forget it. It's non-custodial, but it runs on chain. And so why wouldn't I use it? Because it's not trying to tax me or take, a huge chunk like a fund manager would.
Yeah. And I appreciate your, just straightforwardness with the yield question. I think a lot of people will wonder where the yield comes from or kind of how that is set up. And I think, the third part of this is the tokenomics, and I'd like to get there, but I think there's something to be said about the growth that you guys have had. 15 million users, 200 plus million mints on chain, and we've seen this kind of relationship between apps and chains together change a lot over the last couple of years, right? There was like, let's build everything on Ethereum L1. Then we had different rollups launch and L2s launch, and L1s like Flow, like Sol, etc. Then we kind of brought into, okay, why don't apps launch their own chain? Okay, why don't we have these different economic relationships based on how much value a given app creates back to its chain? Then you got these things like application-specific sequencing and these types of different technical models. But you guys have now moved into a thought camp of enshrining protocols and creating flywheel apps as your new model. Could you just explain why this is the decision that you guys have and what this general mental model of that you have between apps and the chain itself, and kind of why this is what is that mental model?
Well, the mental model from the first version of Dapper and Flow was if you build it, you have to create some reason for people to use it, for them to come participate in the protocol. Especially what you're trying to do is go across the chasm and bring a new generation of people in. They're not just going to try it because it's new. And so Top Shot did that for Flow, where it brought the first wave of people to try the technology. CryptoKitties did that for the original NFC standard. Nobody cared about ERC 721. We published it a month or more before we showed the first version of CryptoKitties, so end of September, end of October. And it was kind of like, some people cared, but it wasn't this thing until people got their hands on it and you could flip cats for thousands of dollars. And so
NBA trading cards as well.
for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So that you have to have a killer app to show the platform's value, and then kick off those network effects, which then bring the wave of developers, bring the next wave of liquidity. The thing we're doing differently is the Enshrine protocol, where instead of building that killer app in sort of a closed way, we're building it in a fully open way where there's zero privileges that the app has over the underlying protocol. And anybody else can come in and build derivative apps, and we hope they will, because you can do a lot of very interesting things when you combine on-chain automation, tokenization of assets, and sort of this automated lending protocol and other automated versions of a DeFi primitives. And so that those two differences are, I think, where we're going to win this time, where we've done the killer app thing multiple times, but the last time we did it, that billions of dollars liquidity, et cetera, stayed in a silo. And even things like, the Ticketmaster product, 100 million mints, more than 10 million users, but they're in the Ticketmaster app. Whereas here, it's sort of their own non-custodial wallets, open infrastructure, smart contract is open source. So you can go check it out right now. anybody else can kind of spin off derivatives from it once it sort of hits that breakaway point. So it'll keep compounding.
And so the goal there would be basically, okay, we had a really successful application setup and development and usage in the past, but we weren't able to actually like fully convert those users into actual on-chain consistent users because they were in other apps that were using Flow kind of underneath, if you will. But now it's like, okay, no. They're going to come into the app. We're going to give them a really good UX on chain, and then they're going to become sticky users of our blockchain for whatever future offerings that we have, future derivatives, that you've mentioned. And so the goal is more of a retention-based game here, as well as like almost like in-housing these applications and these users versus like outsourcing all of kind of the management of these users.
Yeah, it's that, but also when we did Top Shot, that inspired, a whole wave of other players. But those players couldn't use the Top Shot ecosystem. They couldn't build for those customers. They couldn't launch even new tokens on Flow. They had to go to do it on Ethereum and Solana. And so that's why Bored Apes is on Ethereum. That's why, all of these doodles, et cetera, they happen on other networks first. And so here it's different. So when the first thing works, the second thing, the third thing, the fourth thing, all of the ecosystem stays, sort of gets stacked on top and becomes fully compatible and adds value to that same user base, which I think is super important.
If you could go back and change some things, would you have done this first, and that would have been something that you would have changed? Like, I mean, you guys got a lot of
I would have bought Bored Apes at 2 ETH, Rob, in size.
I would have done that
back in time. You know what I mean?
Bought the entire Punks collection, right? But I'm curious, like, what you guys got a lot of things right. What do you think you could have done that maybe would have gotten you further ahead of the curve, or not fallen off as much?
Or even just like any cool stories about Top Shot that you like can reminisce about is cool.
Well, I mean, we had so many learnings because there was no playbook for, hey, this is how you build this economy. And so if I could go back on Top Shot, building in syncs really early on, and daily like activities and gameplay that's not just
more
kind of
DeFi flywheel.
Not even in that case, just like an entertainment sort of flywheel. And on the DeFi side, open infrastructure would have been given rise to DeFi for sort of that era, whether it's lending protocols, whether it's tokenized sort of wrappers, whether it's the punk strategy and style tokens that you're seeing today. We'd have seen them evolve at that time just because the volume was so rapid and run away. But it's really hard for me to say we could have, would have, because
right.
It wasn't actually possible on Flow at that time because Flow was not EVM compatible at that time. It couldn't have been because all the pieces were too early. And if we hadn't done that, we wouldn't be here 5 years later with a mature enough stack where we can actually build decentralized finance products on top of it. So it's sort of like they had to go through that phase, and now we're comfortable, potentially saying this thing can run $1 trillion economy on top of it.
Mm-hmm. What were some of the learnings that you realized from the convergence of these two worlds? Because we think about a lot about this when the DeFi typically financialized world sort of runs into, and we've talked about Web3 gaming, we've talked about NFTs. There's a convergence between these two worlds when it actually does work, and you guys got enough to really say that you had product market fit. Was there a customer segment where they just got it, or was there a learning and people kind of approached it from one end or the other? What did you learn about the consumer behavior of this particular segment?
I mean, look, the consumer behavior has only gotten more into this direction, which is people want skin in the game. They want to play with stuff that they enjoy and it makes them happy, but they also want to have money involved. Whether they're watching sports, they want to be betting on it. If they're involved in politics, they want to have prediction markets. If they want, the intersection of money and consumer life and entertainment and sort of social media has become so seamless. You're scrolling on Instagram, people are pitching investment opportunities. People are posting about their wins and losses from meme coin trading, or at least they were back when. But that was the key part of it, where finance and social are getting more enmeshed, and there is no real platform for it, where all of the social apps stay very far away from being financial, and all of the financial apps stay very far away. Venmo shows you what money you send to people. That's the extent of social in finance, right? And so that's what kind of also gets me really excited, is there's so much unexplored design space where you can do things with friends, you can do things against friends, you can find new friends that are, I mean, that's what NFTs were, right? We're interacting based on our love for very valuable digital assets that say something about our personality. And that is financial. There's no way people spend $100,000 on an NBA Top Shot without considering, where am I putting my money? What sort of what decisions am I making here? And we process billions of dollars in transactions, and the piping to do that is the same piping that people have to be trusting to use, whether it's yield, whether it's sort of speculation of different forms.
I'm curious what it was like watching and managing Top Shot's growth. Like that thing went from 0 to 100 really freaking quick. Maybe you could just clue us in on what it's like to be a founder, watching your product go from, basically launch to like one of the most used applications on chain, all within a matter of months, weeks, really. And really like what that process taught you about scaling products, about reaching product market fit, about scaling a team, just kind of like, what did that meteoric growth teach you about being a founder that, those who haven't experienced, couldn't have had that opportunity to learn?
Well, I mean, look, I could talk for a week about that. The biggest thing is like, it looks overnight. It wasn't overnight, right? Even when Top Shot was May 2020, April 2020, we opened the alpha. May 2020, we opened the beta. It didn't really go viral until January, February 2021. And so we were, even through Christmas, there was like doubts in the community. A certain whales wanted to sort of, and then when it went viral, obviously everybody sort of made a lot of money. And so part of that is just community sentiment in these products is also very important to sort of manage. The biggest thing we learned was obviously the economy management aspect of it, where when you issue an NFT, you're effectively starting a little economy, and so you're your own Fed. You have to control supply, you have to control demand. And it's very sensitive because the in the NFT world, especially, floors are really thin in certain areas, and so there's 1,000,001 learnings there. And if I can say any secret sauce we have, that's it, because I think we've started to figure out the economy management side of Top Shot. This is the best season we've had yet, and if you look at the high end of Top Shot, it's actually healthy, and the fees are healthy, and it responds to market. What happens on court, is reflected in the market, and so it's starting to make a lot of sense. Whereas at the craziness of 2021, it was a little bit of, even the worst player was thousands of dollars for the cheapest
I remember. I had this Jokic card flip that was just so insane. So
well,
good.
Hey, Jokic is still top of the charts right now.
Yeah.
But hey, man, my biggest advice to like other founders is don't over specialize. I think we scaled the company so fast in terms of like, we have to have all of these departments, and we hired all of these very senior people from a lot of big companies, and took a while to kind of get back to our roots, which was really engineering driven, open first, right? We should have, when we knew we had to sort of replicate NBA, NFL, Disney, we should have worked to kind of open up the tech as we went, rather than sort of copy pasting what we had. So a lot of little stuff, but I think the biggest one was just, you got to keep the startup mentality until you're, well more mature. And I think that when you over kind of bulk up, over specialize too early, it reduces flexibility.
Yeah.
When Top Shot went viral, we had no operations, financial operations people. We had no HR, or we had one HR person, but we had no support people. It was just us doing all of the work, right? It was kind of, engineers, product managers were just sort of held hands and got it done. And that meant we could improve the product faster, because we could, understand what was wrong faster. So that's important.
Last question from me is, the NFT market as a whole has gone through lots of trials and tribulations. Well, what's your take on NFTs in 2025 and 2026 and beyond?
Look, I think it's a unquestionable part of the financial infrastructure of the future. I can't comment on individual NFTs, but it's so special that these are digital assets that can exist forever and go anywhere, and anyone can build anything for them. Nothing like that has existed, and as digital life becomes more and more important to people, I think the lines are blurring. I was on a pod earlier today where we were talking about, hey, digital art, I think it's just going to become art. There's no sort of for the people that are fans of digital art, it's just art, you know. And of course, if it's art, you're going to want it to be fully authenticated. You're going to want it to be always transferable. You're going to want it to be in your own control. And so the people that get it, get it. And the people that don't get it are going to sort of cycle out of the market eventually. And so more and more people are going to kind of get it. Same thing with sports collectibles. The people that collect them they're not like, you know, I'm a digital, because just I'm collecting and I want them to be digital because I want them on my phone. I want them to be able to sell them at any point. I want to know what price it exactly is. And there's some pros, some cons, and you know, that it's just is what it is. And I think that that's what's special here. Sort of no longer this thing of like, I'm an NFT sports collector. It's just yeah, I collect this digital stuff. Just like some people say, I collect, you know, Star Wars helmets, or I collect jerseys. Just a category of things that I collect. And then for us, we want to like deepen that, just to say, hey, if you're an NBA fan, you should have a Top Shot account. And even if you're, you know, if you're an extreme collector, you're sort of at the top of these leaderboards. But if you're a small fan, it's still where you go chat with your friends, bet against them, fantasy lineup, whatever it sort of might be. So we still have those you know, visions, but it starts with healthy economy. Is sort of the message.
One last thing for you, Roham. What is it like being in contact with Adam Silver? I'm sure it comes and goes, but any cool stories you can share there?
I mean, Adam's such a great partner. You know, I think my Twitter background is him and I sitting
it's on a stage. Yeah.
And he's always been a great supporter. He's always been a great partner. He's always been forward facing. And I went to him after the NFT crash to sort of talk through how they feel about it, to let them know we're committed, we're going to be around. And he said, look, 2003, it was the crash of, you know, internet, et cetera. We released League Pass. And so he's always been the thing of saying, well, I don't do what's possible. Sorry, I don't do what's popular. I sort of see that, hey, this is going to be a part of our future. And yeah, we support you. Let's get through it and sort of, you know, but let's sort of invest in the fan. Let's do the authentic thing. And he's a very, very inspiring guy. I'm a big Adam Silver fan.
Dude, awesome, man. Roham, CEO of Dapper Labs, co-founder of Flow Blockchain. Power to the people, man. Thank you for joining us.
Power to the people.
Absolute pleasure.
Who's your team?
Yeah, who's your team?
I love all my babies equally. No, you know, we'll see. This season, it's hard to say Lakers, but so we'll see. I'm a free agent right now.
It's hard to fade the Thunder this season. My goodness, they're on a generational tear.
Oh yeah, young talent.
Yeah, I just want Game 7s, man. That's what's good for our business.
Yes.
Get highlights.
Exactly.
All right, Roham. We'll see you next time. Thank you, man.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys.
Congrats
Good seeing you.
Success. See ya.
Cheers to you, man. Wow. What a segment there for the boys. Roham is dude, he is in there with Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner. You know, they have a deep relationship. They've helped out a ton. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Consumer DeFi.
Yeah.
There's going to be more like it. I mean, these guys are now in the trough of disillusionment of the J curve.
On the NFT side, you mean?
Yes, but more so in like the consumer blockchain space, I think. Like, I'm trying to think about, like, you know, the other ones that, you know, maybe get washed out are like the, you know, Starbucks NFTs, like these kinds of things. But, you know, there's sort of this, you know, there was this peak Starbucks NFTs on Polygon and like, you know, NBA Top Shot, 2020, 2021 Bored Apes, you know, all of these things. And now I feel like a lot of that has gotten washed out. But what we're ultimately going to see is like this J curve where, yeah, that, you know, starts up, washes out. And, you know, we do have pudgy penguins basically ubiquitous across GIFs and outside of crypto's, you know, cypherpunk world. And Beeple has NFT collections. He's down in Miami at Art Basel and like has these robot dogs walking around. And, you know, NBA Top Shot, these guys, like there is going to be compound interest. And I think Roham made a good point. Like the younger people are growing up, making more money, and are capitalizing more of the consumer economy. Like that mentality, that mindset, people with that mindset are becoming a greater proportion of consumers.
Yes.
And that is diluting all the people that think on a different wavelength that are like, take the money out of the game, right? Like we don't,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
there
yeah.
shouldn't be sports.
And if you look at the Kalshi CNN announcement, which by the way they just also announced CNBC today,
yeah.
pretty insane. People are quote tweeting it and they're like, this is terrible. Like, this is totally accelerating the problem. We don't want to
hyper financialization of everything.
We don't want to bet on everything, like yada yada yada.
Look, there's people on both sides, but what I'm seeing is that millennials and boomers are the ones that are fighting this.
Yeah.
It's Zoomers and things that are like so apathetic anyway.
Yeah.
That they're like, yeah, bring it on. Like,
yeah, no, exactly. It's the boomers and the older folks who are seeing this like, wow, this is just accelerating the problem. It's part of the problem. We don't want this. All that
and
stuff. So.
The Zoomers are the ones that are like, look, if I don't like this, I'm not going to pay attention to it. I'm just going to go watch Mr. Beast or something.
Sign off. Yeah. Guys, great stream today. Good to see you guys tomorrow. We got another great lineup today. It was great. And see you guys soon. Stay cozy.
Stay cozy. See ya.